Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about What If Naruto x Nelliel Part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for Part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. Madara and Kagaya were defeated long ago, but our blonde hero's work was far from over. It was funny in a way. The village he fought so hard for had all but made him an outcast. Of course they made sure he had nearly run out of use beforehand. Apparently the fact that he was a Jinchuriki made him a danger to those around him, in this supposed time of peace. Naruto knew the truth though. This peace was just the nations aiming and sharpening their blade before they struck. He had failed, admitting that left him with a hollow stinging feeling in his chest. His master's dream, his dream hell, even Nagato's dream, he could not accomplish it. The world did not come to understanding. They did not know peace, and suffering was still happening throughout the land. The lights were dimmed in his cabin on the outskirts of the village. A bottle of alcohol hung limply from his fingertips. Around him were piles of crumpled paper and cigarette butts. The once bubbly blonde had entered a stage of depression. The saddest thing really was that no one even knew. Hardly anyone came to check on him, mostly from fear of being branded as deserters or being exiled before of contamination. Yes, it had become a thing. Jinchuriki, the ultimate weapons, were apparently biohazardous. At least that is what the science division was saying. How much of that was truth though? Well, nothing seemed to change around Naruto. The animals were still fine, the plants still growing. It was a ploy. They shunned their big weapon, to hide the fact that they were busy making smaller ones. Each of the other villages all quickly jumped on the wagon as well. He had to be slightly thankful to the Akatsuki though. Because of their actions no one considered Gaara a Jinchuriki anymore. His friend would be able to live without their tarnished title. Hell, even B had made a run for it when he saw how things were going. Naruto's thoughts often drifted to what life would have been like if he accepted the offer. Uzumaki Naruto was now an obsolete weapon. He pushed back the voice that was screaming at him from inside his head. Kurama, the two had been partners since his birth. They both knew what it was like to be hated and both of them despised the feeling. Naruto gave a small chuckle as he finished moving some seals into position, extinguishing the cigarette in his mouth and taking a large gulp from the bottle in his hand before tossing it against the wall. The long blonde-haired shinobi took his position in a large seal formula and took a deep breath, slowly bringing his hands up into the ram position. He put his right foot in front of his left and started to channel as much chakra as he could, the symbols around him lighting up. An almost breathless kai came from his mouth as the room around him exploded in chakra, sending dust and debris into the air, obscuring vision of what had occurred. It took but a few moments for the large form of an orange fox stood upright and roared, his tails flicking out to the side and clearing away the dust. Kurama was free. Slowly he turned his head to the ground and saw what had become of his partner. The blonde slowly raised his fist up into the air and gave a bright smile. Kurama slowly lowered his own and bumped it against the much smaller one. I want you to live free, friend. I want you to be all you can be, Kurama. Naruto felt his strength quickly leaving him. He could faintly hear his friend yelling at him. What he was saying he couldn't make out though. Be happy, Kurama, don't become like me. Naruto was surrounded by a blinding white light as his body slowly rose from the ground. His eyes blinked rapidly to try to clear his vision and see what was around him. I mean you no harm, Naruto-san. He stretched his senses out, a vain attempt to find where the voice was coming from. The air next to him shifted and his body weight shifted away from that direction so that he could react faster. It'll be a long time before I believe some crap like that. A pair of pale hands slowly reached out and cupped his cheeks. Behind them were slender arms leading into a similar body, pale face framed by silver hair that cascaded down her shoulders and stopped just above her thighs. Someone who isn't afraid to be near me. I guess we aren't in the elemental lands anymore. His eyes took in the bright surroundings, though there was nothing else around him apart from her. Never mind that. What's going on? Who the hell are you? She slowly took her hand away from Naruto's cheek and frowned. I am the kami that governs rebirth, and currently you are dead, Naruto-san. She trailed off with a sad look on her eyes. I had not wished to see you here for some time. Naruto felt his body fall maybe a foot before he landed on his feet, slightly crouched down before dusting himself off and standing at his full height of 6 feet 1 inch. He sized up the person before him and gave a small bow of his head. So I died? Naruto rolled his head around on his shoulders. What about Kurama? Was he able to get out okay? The frown quickly turned into a bright smile. Why yes, actually, he and his kin have returned to their home dimension. He tried his best to save you, but in the end it wasn't enough. Her frown had returned and she looked rather confused for a few moments. Kurama was adamant that I tell you never to give up. That things might not be as far-fetched as you think. Naruto shifted his body weight to one leg and gave a small scoff. What's the point though? The war was over yet people still couldn't understand one another. We had all suffered yet, they still wanted to make others suffer more. I am just glad Kurama is able to live his life freely again in the end. If you see them again, can you tell them I say hey? Naruto gave a weak smile as he remembered how the world had become. I came here to offer you another chance at life actually, Kami suggested sheepishly, watching as Naruto rose a brow in her direction. I believe this may have been what Kurama was talking about. Why? Naruto's question caused confusion on the deity's face, thus he decided to elaborate. Why would you think that I want a second chance? Kami took a handful of careful steps forward before placing a hand over Naruto's heart. Because of your heart. You are a good person, Naruto-san. You did not deserve what happened in your previous life. You did all you could, even going further than what we had thought you possible of, yet you still pushed and pushed, trying everything you could. In the end you made a selfless sacrifice for your friend. You may have soured over the duration of your time in isolation, but it is only dust that covers your heart, something that is easily enough wiped away. We convened and decided that you deserve a second chance, one where you can be happy. Naruto let out a yawn as he picked at his ear lazily. He came a tight inhale through his nose before blinking a few times at the goddess in front of him. Yeah, okay, so what do you really want? Pardon? She questioned in shock. The blonde shinobi let out a tired sigh, offering someone a second chance at life? Yeah, that only happens in stories, so what do you want me to do? I am a shinobi, I'm used to being used so I can see when someone is trying to do it. Honestly, it is tiring how people try to hide it between nice words, so chuck him out and tell me what it is that you want. Kami gave a small chuckle. How very perceptive. Yes, I feel war is coming to one of the dimensions that we observe. A war not too different from the one you fought it, and I feel you and another could play a pivotal role. Much like you did in the one prior. War is that all humans are good at? Why can't anyone just sit down and talk, discard religion and beliefs and speak as one person to another? A scoff left Naruto's mouth as he sat down, a bored look on his face. Why, you do realize you are speaking to a god right now, right? The goddess stuttered out in shock. Naruto craned his neck to the side. Sorry, but what have you lot ever done for humanity? After a few moments of not getting a response he stood up. Whatever, you want to chuck a monster at a war and hope it goes away, fine, Kurama would have my head if I rejected it anyway. So you're accepting, right? The goddess questioned hesitantly. She stiffened slightly as Naruto's eyes snapped at her. He was far from his peak currently. Though when he was in his prime he and his friend were able to fight Kaguya and win. Now Kaguya was an actual goddess. The process behind becoming such was really murky, but she fit the bill. If she was ever unsealed for a decent period of time to create some kind of change in the world, then the court would likely drag her up. In saying that, Kaguya was stronger than the goddess of rebirth, at least in terms of fighting power. They had watched Naruto's skills dull over his years away, but his mind had sharpened to incredible levels. She did not know what to expect. That is why when he gave a small nod at her she let out a breath and was able to quell the shaking in her knees that she had not noticed before. Thank you for accepting, Naruto-san. When you're ready, please leave through the golden door to your left. Naruto stood up again and stretched himself out, a small groan coming from his mouth as he rubbed at the stubble on his face. So, I guess you're going to take my memories or something? A pained smile crossed her face. Of course, you will come to forget this meeting in time, though you will feel a drive towards certain actions. Also your memories of your time as a shinobi, nearly all of them will vanish. I am sorry, but it is part of rebirth. Sure, Naruto stuffed his hands into his pockets and walked over towards the door in question, or should he say doors. He pursed his lips and thought, why were there two? Why were they both gold? Why did they have strange masks hanging above them that looked like clown faces? Such questions he didn't voice. Not being the most avid fan of clowns, Naruto naturally picked the sad clown mask. The goddess of rebirth was relieved. She only had one chance to offer him this. Susanoo wanted the boy to join them in the court, and if he trained himself back to his peak he could be classed as a minor god of war, so he was qualified enough. When she heard the doors open she turned and lifted her hand to wave, only for horror to overtake her features. She had forgotten that two doors lead to that dimension. Moreover, both looked very similar. He gave a faint wave back to her as she started to run across the room, the doors snapping tightly shut just as she reached them, her form sliding down as she heard the room work its magic. I turned him into a hollow. Well, moreover, he turned himself into one. But wasn't it my lack of guidance that brought about this outcome? Her face quickly found home inside the palms of her hands. This was not according to plan. He was meant to become a Shinigami. Hell, he should have been drawn to the Shinigami room. Why did he enter the hollow one? Actually, why the hell did they both look so freaking similar? Gold and sandstone should not be placed right next to one another. Swallowing deeply, she traced her finger on the ground in the form of a circle, the sands of Hueco Mundo coming into view beneath her. Sprawled out on the sands was a yellow fox, 9 long tails resting behind it, while blue-black tribal marks had formed around the base of his paws. A fox skull taking shape over the top of his regular one. She could already hear the other gods screaming her name. This was her chance to prove that she was able to do her job and didn't need someone watching her over her shoulder constantly. Amaterasu is going to kill me. Naruto slowly opened his eyes, unaware of his observation as he struggled to get to his feet. For some reason he just couldn't move like he normally did. It was then that something yellow drifted into the corner of his vision and quickly caught his attention. He snapped his head around to get a better look and found that it seemed to be attached to himself, a tail. He did a double take as he noticed another come into his vision, followed by another and another. In the end Naruto ended up giving a chuckle. 9 tails seems like I get to experience how cool damn I feel like I knew who I was talking about, but now, was it a fox? The blonde slowly moved his head to face where his hands should be, only to find paws. I'm a fox? He yelled quickly, managing to stand up and run forward a few steps before noticing he was finding moving easier already. Maybe instincts were starting to kick in. Oh, I really fucked up this time, nearly as bad that time I let Jesus become a vampire, the goddess of rebirth stated as she watched a group of hollows start to crowd around Naruto, already knowing what was about to happen. This feels incredibly familiar. Have I been like this before, or was I actually always like this? Naruto mused inwardly before hearing a soft crunch against the sands around him. I guess my yelling alerted them. Who knows, maybe they are not hostile? Naruto took notice of a large purple humanoid-looking creature. A bone mask of sorts covering its face. Get the fox, boys. It roared, causing the blonde fox to sigh before quickly leaping to the side, dodging the large fist of another strange-looking creature. His eyes quickly darted around and took in those around him. It appeared as though they had moved the larger ones to the front of the group. Was it perhaps an intimidation tactic? They tried to rush him. Naruto took a small step to the side, his tails reacting and reaching up to grasp at one that came too close. The bone tips digging in and ripping at the flesh of the arm before they quickly twirled, ripping right down to the bone like a grisly drill. The tails quickly spun together before impaling another. He had figured that it would be more difficult to control them, though it didn't really seem to be much more than an extension, like having an extra finger. Of course, these fingers were long and sharp. Naruto felt a change in the air around him. It started to move in a single direction, towards one of the creatures in the back, a red orb forming in front of its mouth. His eyes narrowed dangerously. A Baijidama? No, it felt much too weak for it to be one. Even still, he stepped out of the way, feeling the energy rush past him in the shape of a beam. Well, if we are playing like that, Naruto reared his head back and felt a large amount of strange energy form in front of his mouth. It was like chakra that wasn't quite chakra. He lowered his head. He was forming a Baijidama. At least that is what it felt like. He felt a pull in his mind though. As he was about to release the technique, his thoughts changed. No longer did he want to call it a Baijidama. No, instead he wanted to call it a Zero. A blue-black beam came from the blonde's maw and quickly took care of the creature in front of him and the majority of the group that had been standing too close to his target. One was left, and Naruto had started to channel more of that strange energy to perform another one of those Zero things, only for it to turn and run. He watched as the brown goat with a small tuft of green hair atop of its head ran, getting further and further away. Naruto sagged as his body dropped down to the ground. Not what I was expecting. His stomach grumbled and he found his mind hit with a surge of pain. Damn, I'm hungry. Could really go for some ramen right now. I have no clue what ramen is, but there is none of it here. Naruto narrowed his gaze in front of him where the voice had come from. He could feel that not chakra swirling around him, getting ready to be used in another attack as a long, slender creature erupted from the ground. Don't attack, don't attack. I don't want to fight. Naruto gave a small huff. Why did he always attract the strange ones? So are you going to do something or just sit there creepily bobbing up and down? I was waiting for you to ask what there is to eat if there isn't any ramen. The worm thing gave what appeared to be a sigh. Truth is, we eat each other. I know how nasty, but it helps keep us, well, us. Along with filling up the hunger and constantly testing how battle ready we are. Honestly, it is such a brutish way to live. One of Naruto's tails moved forward to point at the worm. So I could eat you. Well, yes, but then you wouldn't have my wonderful voice to listen to. Hey, no, stop charging up a Zero. I was kidding. I know a fair bit about these lands. Though to others my fair bit is quite a lot, and I am willing to impart this knowledge onto you under the condition that you feed me. And how do I know that you won't just feed me false information? The worm stopped its movements, seemingly shocked. Well now, that is an interesting question. Many just assume that I will only tell them the truth. I will be frank with you then. I am not overly strong, at least not on the level of yourself. That being said, you are just one of many here in these lands. It is pure luck that we would cross paths like this. Well, that is a bit of a lie. Those hollows were hunting me under the orders of their king. Hollows? Naruto rolled the word out of his mouth, testing it. What do you mean by that? We, my fine fox, are hollows. It is the name of our race. Forget what you were before, it does not matter here. Here everyone is hollow, prey or predator remains to be seen though. My name, I will give it to you for as I said, you asked an interesting question, say Leporo Grands. May I kindly have yours? Uzumaki Naruto, family name first, Naruto replied, his eyes staying trained on the worm. I hear people introduce themselves with their family name second, well at least those that can remember it. Regar. Your name is too long, Naruto interrupted Sail, that is what I will call you, or Worm. Sail Leporo started bouncing once again, that is fine. Sail that is, I would prefer not to be called Worm. I am much smarter than one after all. Then don't call me Fox, Naruto grumbled out. One of Naruto's tails moved and pointed towards the downed hollows, so we eat these hollows, right? The worm nodded his head, yes, that way we can retain our thought and our memories. Otherwise we could regress back into a Jillian. Jillian, I assume that is some kind of hollow? Sail craned his body and head a little to the side. Yes, it is a large, bulky form where our minds fight to gain control. Once we gain control and gather enough Ryuryuko, we shrink down and contain it in these much smaller bodies. As we are currently, we are referred to as ajuchas. I caught a glimpse of a very strange-looking hollow. It was a skeleton, and some were even calling him a king. I think that it might be the rumored Vasto Lord, though I cannot say for certain. Sounds lame, Naruto drawled out, one of his tails stabbing out and impaling one of the nearby hollows. His strong tail dragged the burnt body over to him, his tails slashing through the flesh rather easily before he lifted a piece up and placed it onto the tip of his tongue. He snapped his mouth shut and watched Sail. You really are a weary one, aren't you? Here, if you will allow me? Sail moved to one of the hollows before taking a large bite and swallowing, opening up his mouth to show it was empty. See, no harm. Needless to say, the hollow that Naruto had dragged over to himself did not last much longer than a minute after that. A small burp escaped the fox and he grumbled at the unwanted action before resting his head atop his paws, thinking about what was happening as he watched the worm continue to nibble away at his hollow. How much of that fight from earlier did you see? Sail stopped his eating and turned to face Naruto. All of it, of course. They were hunting me when they ran into you. I was not really sure you would be able to handle it, but you proved me wrong. That goat, this energy that is around us shifted around her just before my zero, that was it, right? Naruto mused to himself before giving a small nod to confirm his thoughts were right. Well, it shifted. She was the only one to walk away. The energy in the air, Shinigami call it Reishur. Ryuryuko is what we contain. Reishur is what the air contains, and Ryatsu is what happens when both of them meet without control. To not restrain them, do you understand? I'm not an idiot, Naruto growled out. I just don't know what I don't know. Sail gave a blank look towards Naruto for a few moments. That is surprisingly insightful. Very well, I cannot really feel the energy in the air around us. Maybe that is something of a special skill of yours? Special skill? Naruto mused, his ears twitching as a faint wind brushed over their tips. Maybe, I don't know. There is something in the wind, but I can't feel it really strongly. So you aren't really sure? Naruto let out a small snarl. I don't know. I feel like I used to be able to do it much better, but I can't say for sure anyway. The goat. Let's get back on track. It survived when nothing else did, but a cretin that was under the sands. Oh, we have moved on to snide remarks now. It is still better than being a worm. As a show of good faith though, I am a parasite. I am able to infest a dead or dying body and have it go through something akin to pregnancy with me as the child, Sail explained in an effort to earn some trust from the fox. I could have done without the image. Naruto did his best to push it away, though it lingered for a time. Now focus. Why did the goat live? If I am to fight, I need to make sure that when I attack, people get hit. Sail paused. Nelliel Bleach is the name of that goat. From what I can gather, it appears that she is able to absorb Reishur-based attacks like the Zero and launch them back. She may have diverted your attack so that it missed her. I presume that it has a limit, though she is not one that you need to worry about. Barely a hollow FM, to be honest. Much too nice, completely different from yourself, my great fluffy lord. If I didn't have the sneaking suspicion that you would just get one of these corpses pregnant, I would be rather inclined to kill you for that. Well now, isn't that good news for me? Naruto stood up and stretched his body out, feeling his bones creak back into place, small pops of gas escaping from the joints. There is a cave, not overly far from here. Sail looked at him in confusion before following his gaze. I don't see one. Neither, I feel it. And you said I am creepy? Pregnant corpses, I don't want to see that, much less experience one giving birth. I said it was akin to pregnancy. There is a difference. Naruto let out a huff as his padded feet slapped against the sand, his destination already in place. You're becoming akin to a headache. Her green tufts of hair flickered in the gentle breeze that swept across Hueco Mundo. Her head bowed in respect to the near humanoid goat in front of her. Her father, Lord Tuesday. He ruled over the east of Hueco Mundo. Though his army may be smaller than those in the south and the west, he used his cunning mind to more than make up for it. Now the trio stood on somewhat equal ground, none of them trying to push out into the territory of the others. This had given them balance. What he was hearing now, though, was not news he wanted to know about. His daughter had failed in apprehending Sailaporo. That damned parasite knew what his plans for the future were. With all the prep work he had in place, changing his plans now would take too long. The worst of it, though, was that her hunting party had been wiped out by a single hollow. A hollow strong enough to fight against a number of Ajuchas at once was not something he wanted slipping away from him. Take a larger force, you have all the time you need, Nelliel, but bring me the fox and Sailaporo's head. I will not accept failure a second time, even from you. Nelliel bowed her head a little lower. As much as can be spared, we will run them down, and bring them back so you can savor ripping his head yourself, father. Tu stood up from his throne and walked down the small set of stairs in front of him, stopping before Nelliel and gently brushing her hair before roughly grabbing her cheeks. Don't come back if you fail. There will be no home here for you. Her ears heard the sound of his hooves clack away from her. She did not raise her head, instead still looking at the ground her father had just occupied. I understand. Naruto's paws hit the sandy ground of Hueco Mundo. His gaze, every now and again, drifted over to his wormy companion. If one could call him such at this point. More or less they were both merely using one another. Sail seemed to be a decent source of information for Naruto, while the fox protected the worm, often leaving scraps for it to eat. It had been a few days since they last ate, though. The cave that Naruto had been planning on retreating to had been filled with hollows on the verge of regression. They offered very little, and Naruto could hear breathing on his neck. There was something looming over him. Its claws slowly digging into his flesh. It was painful, his skull aching while his stomach churned. He turned to look at Sail again. He could quickly kill this creature. He knew that though there were still things that Naruto did not know, things that Sail was willing to tell him. He grit his teeth, taking a deep breath in as he scanned the area around them. His claws extended outwards and ran into the sand, clenching up stiffly as his breathing became a little heavier. Hunjiarai. Sail froze where he was, slowly turning to look at the blonde fox behind him. Those icy eyes were looking straight at him. Now, Naruto, we both know that I am not nearly enough for one like yourself. If you can hold out just a little longer, I do remember that there was something akin to a den around here. Last time I counted 4 or 5 that were inside. Their Ryatsu was somewhat high, higher than mine at least, not so much yours. The way those tails seemed to sway from side to side did not instill a vote of confidence in the worm. Rather, they just fueled the notion that he was trapped with a hungry predator at the current second. Sail could see the blue eyes. Over the past few hours they had slowly been turning golden in color. The scientist inside of him, along with the information that he had gathered, caused him to dub this state of Naruto as semi-rational. He still seemed to remember that they had loosely agreed to having Naruto not kill him so long as Sail continued to feed him information. You know, our back and forth kind of dies if only one of us is speaking, Sail prompted, hoping for a response. He of course got one, though not the one he was expecting as he saw Naruto's tongue brush along his black lips. Now, really I am not enough to sate your Hun Jiaof. A large tail knocked him from his feet and off to the side as a Zero flew past where Sail had been standing and headed straight towards Naruto. Naruto's tails quickly wrapped together and blocked the Zero. Sail looked on with wide eyes. Did Naruto retain enough of his mind at this moment to protect him? As the blast died down, the tails unwrapped, smoke slowly wafting from them but otherwise unharmed. Sail looked at the hollows that were coming over the sandy dune. Their Ryatsu was pretty strong. Naruto's, on the other hand, was flying all over the place. 6 Ajucha's hollows had crested the dune, the 7th having been standing on the top for a few seconds now. Well, look here, boys, seems like we have someone regressing. The lead hyena-type Ajuchas got out between faint snickers. Not even the worm there will give us a decent meal. This was a total waste of freaking time. A large gorilla roared out before flaring his nostrils in a snort. Sail kept his retort about being a parasite, not a worm, concealed. The Ajuchas seemed to ignore the fact that a regressing Naruto blocked their Zero without any real damage. They were greatly underestimating a hungry beast, one that had seemingly decided that it was going to quell its hunger with their bodies. There was a small cackle before the hyena pointed forward. You lot deal with the fox quickly, that worm, he was the one that sold us out last time. I would never forget your sense of fella. You're mine, Kiki. My god, you're actually retarded, Sail droned out, his body slithering back as the hyena jumped towards him. Sail quickly dove deep down into the sands. Sorry, Naruto, but fighting really is not my strong point. Naruto, though, did not even notice his companion leave. His vision clouded slightly. becoming blurred though he could make out the big shape coming towards him. Despite his pounding head, he was able to command his tails to fly out and stab into the gorilla, though he didn't feel the tips pierce through its skin. They bounced, causing Naruto to quickly come to the conclusion that his tails were parried. He grit his teeth and lowered his head a little before whipping his tails around like a helicopter. His tails found their targets and wrapped around the limbs before ripping two of the lower-level Daijutsus in half. The tails dragged the bodies over to Naruto as blood spilled down, covering his body and dripping into his mouth, pushing back the creeping darkness in his mind. He drew one of the halves down and roughly ripped out a chunk before quickly chewing and swallowing. I feel so much better now. Naruto firmly planted his feet on the ground, his mouth opening for a split second, which was all the time it took for a Zero to fly out. Not overly powerful, but this was more used for its ability to be used quickly. It caught another Daijutsus off guard, smacking them into the sand and glassing the area around him. He met the gaze of the gorilla, his tails gently swaying from side to side, looming high overhead and ready to strike down and attack once more. I'm gonna crush your runt! The gorilla struck his chest with one arm, the other digging into the sand at his feet and throwing it up into the air before he danced on the spot, grunts and calls slipping from his mouth. It all came to a sudden stop though as he glared at Naruto, a deep growl slipping from him as his nostrils flared. His knuckles struck the ground as he quickly took towards the blonde. Naruto's mind quickly raced. When the gorilla had thrown the sand, he had seen the small mark his tails had left. This thing had tough skin, perhaps if he went for the joints he could break through? He pondered the thought. It was decent, though the gorilla probably had this used against him quite often. This meant Naruto would need to find a way to open up any guard that might be used. He found it. Of course these thoughts happened in the amount of time it would take one to blink. Of course the gorilla moved at such a rapid pace as well. This meant that by the time Naruto put his plan in motion he only had enough time for one chance. Hopefully it would be all he needed. Naruto slapped his tails on the sand in front of him, causing displacement of a large amount. The displaced sand quickly rose into the sky, creating a blanket of sorts that hid Naruto from view. His senses stretched, faintly feeling where the gorilla was as it had stopped. A tail shot out from one side and he felt it turn to defend. His 8 others shot out towards his back and made impact under his arms and behind his knees. He cracked the skin, though it wasn't very deep. His senses flared and he jumped to the side as a clawed fist hit where he had just been. You didn't think I was just gonna sit around, did you, Kiki? Zero Diaz. On each tail a zero formed, with a smaller one forming in front of his mouth. Lines shot from the ones on each tail towards his mouth, making it grow larger and larger in size. Within a second the ones on each tail vanished and Naruto leaned forward, taking the large one in front of him into his mouth, his stomach and throat expanding with the action as he quickly shot forward, landing with nearly no distance between himself and the hyena. His mouth quickly opened and 10 zeros shot out at once in a large spread, ripping limbs from torso. He didn't have any time to rest though, as the gorilla seemed to have recovered. At least that is what the giant purple light flying towards Naruto told him. He blocked again with his tails, feeling searing pain as it started to rip away at his fur and bone. He made a mistake. Though perhaps he would not have been able to dodge in time, he had put himself in a rather bad position to land that attack, his body having been facing away from his first opponent. The zero died down, and Naruto felt his tails ache as the pressure was released. He could spun around and felt the arid air rip into his exposed flesh, his teeth grinding against one another, as he focused his gaze fully on the gorilla that was nearly on top of him. Just before it reached him though, it fell face first into the ground. Get him now, Naruto. The fox did not waste the opportunity that Sail had been able to get him. The parasite had wrapped around the gorilla's leg from under the sand, causing it to trip. Naruto quickly jumped onto its back and opened his mouth wide before snapping down on the back of its neck. He felt the spine snap and the frantic flailing of the gorilla stopped. Naruto gave it a sudden extra twist for good reason. After all, it could just be playing dead. So after another few snaps he let go, his eyes drifting over to Sail as he felt his tails slowly start to heal. Thanks for that. It was in my best interests. After all, you were stronger than them. Even that gorilla, while he had the brute strength, you would have had him if you were both at 100%. You are much smarter than any other hollow I have come across, which is also the reason why I helped. When you're not stroppy and going into regression, you are actually rather pleasant company. That last bit almost sounded painful, Naruto coughed out, but I feel fine now. I just needed to eat a bit. Though now I know that you are actually able to help out during a fight, so I might expect you to do a little more, Naruto taunted lightly before picking up the buddies of the hollows and dragging them to a large pile. He spared a glance towards Sail. 2 to 4, my favor. That okay with you? Sail nodded as 2 bodies were tossed towards him, one being the hyena and the other was one of the ones that Naruto ripped in half with his tails. He watched as Naruto rolled the gorilla over and crushed its throat. Honestly, he was being much too wary with that one. It had died quite some time ago. Do you still got plans to search for this hideout you want to make? With all things considered, I thought it best to ask at this time rather than finding out later. Naruto continued to eat the hollow in front of him for a few moments, mulling the recent events and his previous plans over in his head. I thought I had lost myself. Voices whispering all through my head with hands trying to drag me down. A few more moments, and I am not sure I would have come back. I can't really have a hideout, or anything of the sorts until we find a source of sustainable food that can keep regression away. That's quite the task. How am I supposed to create something like that? Sale frowned in thought, his mind drifting off for a few moments, as he pictured some rough solutions. Agriculture? Naruto questioned. He saw Sale look at him in confusion for a few moments. There are small hollow lizards that live in the sand. Not ajuchas, not Jillian. It begs the question of what they live on. Then I saw one eating the sand itself. What if we could do something similar with a cow or something from the human world? Maybe some plants as well? A way for them to cultivate Ryuko, which then is transferred to us when we eat them? Sale pondered the thought for a few moments. And these hollow lizards, they have a Ryatsu? It's tiny, large enough for me to be able to sense it, but not large enough for it to be classed as a meal. A thoughtful look came over his face before one of his tails shot out, digging into the sand before ripping itself up into the air. Screams of panic coming from inside of the tail as it was brought to Naruto, who silenced the small lizard with his razor-like teeth, maybe 30 or so of them to be as filling as a Jillian? And you need at least the worth of 3 to 4 Jillian a day to stop your regression. Though you can stockpile Asai escaped the parasite, but it is a start. I can probably work with this. Give me some time and I should have something, so long as you do not mind being the tester, that is. I guess I am just lucky that you're too lazy to find someone else to carry you around, Naruto muttered out before letting a yawn out. That's fine. They both understood Naruto's words clearly. He didn't mind testing Sale's work because he knew that if the man killed him, not only would he be alone, but he would need to hunt his own food once more. For something like that, though, I would need a place to work. I cannot simply keep moving day to day if you want any sort of progress with a task like this. A pause happened between the two, with only the sound of bones breaking and flesh ripping occurring around them. Sale watched as the greedy fox lifted its head up to swallow a gullet full before giving its maw a light shake from side to side. You want a lab? Naruto questioned, or more like he stated after a few moments. I do indeed. A hum left the fox. Is this lab you're thinking of? How would we go about getting it? Sale paused in his thoughts. There was once a kingdom where the great hollows of old used to gather. It is possible that we could find something akin to a laboratory there. Or we would have to go to the human realm. The human realm? How would we get there? The air became stagnant. You need to open a portal of sorts to the human world, though I don't have any real limbs to do so. While my tail may be prehensile, I cannot rip the air with it like one would with hands or even claws. I would teach you if I could. So we're hunting relics, or taking a hollow hostage to bring us to the human realm, I take it? Sale shifted his head to the side in question. We are going after the ancient city if you want this done for you. It would be a good place to set up defenses. Not to mention its location will allow you to still hunt for us while I do the research. What do you want to do with those that are following us, Naruto? Those that are following us, they seem to be keeping their distance, but who knows how long that will last. Don't tell me you don't know about them. I felt them the moment I went underground. You are much better at sensing than I, so you must know. Naruto let out a small hum. He spread his senses out wide, judging everything he could. We will continue on. If they start fighting, we will close on them. If not, they will start to starve. Maybe some might even start regressing by the time we reach the pass that is some distance in front, maybe a few days. You plan to gorge on every hollow that crosses our path between now and then, don't you? Sale saw the black vulpine lips twist into an almost evil smirk. You can prattle all you like about what I don't know when it comes to Hueco Mundo and the life of hollows, but fighting, I am good at fighting. Naruto ripped an arm from one of the bodies with his tails before crushing the bones in his mouth. Here the hunt is just as important as the fighting. When fighting a dangerous creature, you hardly ever try to kill it with the first blow. You bleed it, just like an army. The best way to fight it is to bleed it first. I shall keep that in mind, though I do not really understand. Though, what makes you think that they will not try to eat? Sale questioned. It was a fair question that Sale proposed. Naruto clicked his tongue. They don't know that we can see them. In their position, I would try to find a good place, especially seeing as they would have felt that fight from before. There is no doubt in their minds that I am no longer regressing. Thus, a danger. They would want to fight in a place where their numbers are more effective, a place where I cannot simply avoid them. Their goal is likely to be reaching the trench pass without us taking notice of them. Naruto paused and waited for Sale to give something that looked like a nod before he continued. So if their goal is to go undetected, they have to match out pace. If they go faster, we will see them. If they go slow, they will lose us. So we slow down and take every meal that passes by, leaving not even bones for them to pick up. We starve them, we put them on edge, that is when they are most likely to make mistakes and when they will be at their weakest. So now, once we finish eating, we are going to take a nice stroll. You want to take a stroll through Hueco Mundo? I do. Will you join me once dinner is done, Sail? Sail gave his head a light shake as he started to chuckle. You really are a crazy one, but sure, I'll follow you, Naruto. Her eyes scanned the area in front of her, taking in the raised walls on either side as them stretching high into the sky. Her stomach growled as it flopped over onto itself, trying to squeeze every last bit of rature out that it could. They had been keeping their Ryatsu low so as to not alert those that they were stalking. The fox and that worm. Sail had joined them for a time. When he got what he wanted, he left without a second thought, taking all that he could carry. She was sent with her squad of trackers to bring him back, though they happened to walk in on that fox. It was all she could do to deflect his attack. A few days ago they were about to jump in, having felt his Ryatsu drop to incredibly low levels. Though it quickly shot back up like nothing had happened. They had lost their chance, so she made a quick decision to shift the location of attack to this trench pass. Here they would be able to overpower that fox with their sheer numbers. At least that was the plan, the moment that they followed Sail and the fox and they lost them. That fox kicked up a dust storm with his tails and the two vanished. She had tried to backtrack only for large rocks to fall from above and block the path. Her lips formed into a thin line. Nelliel, what the hell do we do now? She turned her head towards the hollow that called her name, only to watch long tails shoot down from directly above them, skewering 9 of her Ajuchas instantly. Those that remained instantly turned their heads up and saw the fox, his claws dug tightly into the walls above them. Without thought they fired zero after zero as he scampered along, even going behind them. Nelliel tried to tell them to stop, but it was too late. The walls started to shake as large rocks dropped down, squishing even more of them into the ground. Nelliel grit her teeth, her eyes locking with the fox who was hanging on the wall. In that single moment she felt fear. Sail was nothing, smart he was, but he was no fighter. His vulpine lips twisted upwards and Nelliel felt something inside of her stir. She was excited? Not going to run this time? His voice purred out, causing her body to shiver. He remembered her. He had known that they had been following him. Had he been moving so slowly because of such a thing? Trying to weaken them as much as possible? Is that why he fought everything that came near him, not letting a single thing move past? She had spent the past few days listening to the other Ajuchas complain about all the food that this fox was eating. They were all hungry, but fighting would have given away their position, so they were avoiding filling up. His actions, they had been to break their morale. Nelliel felt out around her. Sail was in the walls somewhere, the fox was in front of her, and that was it. The fading signatures of her allies were becoming almost too weak to register properly. I know the smell of blood filled the air and Nelliel's legs became weak, her head looking towards the ground as the blood pooled at her hooves. She went to drink only to stop as one of the tails moved into her vision. Why are you following us? She understood. Until his questions were answered she was not allowed to eat. Nelliel took in a deep breath. My father ordered it. A faint hum came from Naruto as he slowly descended, his paws happy to be back on the ground. Orders? You make it sound like you're a soldier. Though if this man is your father, your loyalty more than likely runs further than simple orders. You're coming with us. Try not to make me angry. Nelliel blinked in shock. But I. There is no real point in that, Nelliel. When he sets his mind on something, he doesn't really change no matter how much you try, Sail explained as he came out of the nearby wall. Nelliel quickly snapped her gaze to him and growled, Now don't be like that, you don't scare me at all compared to Naruto. Sail, did you get their bodies? Naruto questioned, stretching his body out a little while the parasite nodded as he pulled out 12 bodies that had been battered by large rocks from a nearby hole. Good. A few of them were still alive, though a small cirrhoe to the base of the skull fixed that. You can of course thank me when you are ready. Naruto gave a small grumble before turning to look at the goat. Your name is Nelliel, right? He got a small stiff nod from her. That's long, you're now Nell. My name is Naruto, you can eat, I am taking 6, you two can split the rest. Sail, fill her in on what she needs to know. 6 tails of Naruto's shot out and grabbed onto Naruto's meals before the fox started to walk away. You can have some space also if you harm Sail, your father will hear your screams from here. Nell's body stiffened for a moment. She waited until the fox was gone before turning to Sail. Why? Why I left? Simple, you lot no longer had anything worth me staying around for. This though, Naruto, he is in another league to that pesky little father of yours. Everything that just happened, that was all him. For once, I feel like I can learn so much from someone, though I do also teach him things as well. Nell watched him, trying to get an understanding of what was running through the mind of this creature. One whom was happy to steal knowledge from everyone had suddenly become content to follow this Naruto. To her, it did not make any sense. It was the exact opposite of what should have happened. Sale should have just drawn what he could from the fox and left, or was it more that he was unable to comprehend what the fox knew? Now isn't that an interesting look on your face? Sale's voice snapped her from her thoughts. I know that your father wants to rule Hueco Mundo. He ignored the shock that came over Nell's features to continue. I want to see just how many hollows will throw their lives away under your father's orders trying to kill Naruto. Naruto will rid Hueco Mundo of the mindless hollows. They will simply be forced to adapt, to evolve, or they will falter and die. That is, of course, if your father would even be able to make it to Naruto. What do you mean by that? Her voice was slightly shaken. This was expected though. Her father controlled an incredibly large army of hollows. He was known to be incredibly smart. He had passed everything he knew onto her, yet Sale had tricked them both and Naruto had destroyed her squad twice now without putting forth any real effort. At least that was how it looked. Sale gave a faint chuckle. I do not understand the complexities of warfare, though your father would not be the only one to hunt us. That would be certain in the months to come. You two, what are you playing at? What is your goal? She pressed rather aggressively. If she could worm information out of them and return to her father, well, it would not be a total loss. The ancient city is our destination, an infinite supply of food for hollows is our goal. Now how small-minded does your father seem? Which is more noble, he whom seeks to provide food, or he whom seeks to conquer with an iron fist? Nell swallowed the spit in her mouth. The end of regression? Yes, from a hollow that awoke mere moments before your first encounter with him. How young, yet how far has his mind stretched already? Not even I had given the idea serious thought, but Naruto has provided a decent starting point for further expansion. Sale looked over to where Naruto was, the fox seemingly sleeping now, having already finished eating for the moment. That is the type of hollow that interests me most. A little over a week and he has something that could possibly lead to the end of regression. What could he do in an eternity? The air between them became rather still as Sale shifted his food around in front of him. Well, you have all the time to experience this for yourself now, so play a nice little hostage and don't cause us trouble. It will be over once we are settled. Oh my, that sounded ominous. He gave a faint chuckle as Nelliel shivered. Naruto, who was further down the path, looked at his twitching paws. The blue markings on it had started growing a little further up and it felt different. I don't think I injured them. This weak feeling in them, it is almost like regression. Yet no matter how much I eat it doesn't change. Damn, this sucks. Another shiver passed through Nelliel's body as those chilling blue eyes from the fox loomed over her for a brief second. The way his paws moved, it was almost as if he was stalking something with every step. The sky was nearly completely blocked out now, the moon long hidden by the creeping height of the walls on each side of them. Faint outcrops able to be seen while the dull thin strip of sky was barely visible directly above. It feels close, Naruto spoke, his voice carrying through the still air with little resistance. Sale gave a faint nod from where he was slithering. I am glad to have you around. Trying to get a gauge on anything in these conditions is nearly impossible for me. And not for the fact that Nell is too scared to attack you from fear that I will rip her head from her body the instant she moves to do so? Nell flinched at the bored tone that Naruto used to rip through the very thoughts that propped up every few hours. My, are you sure we should not add mind reader to your list of abilities, Naruto? Black vulpine lips pulled into a thin smirk. Perhaps. Though we are being watched, there is a hollow keeping our pace from above. Well, that is not entirely hard. The pace we're moving at is rather slow after all. Nelliel's quip earned her chilling eyes focused into a piercing gaze. Yes, let me travel faster so that I can't see what is inside each of those outcrops, and we pass by a large amount of hollows waiting for us in ambush. Doesn't that sound like an incredible idea, Sale? I am sensing that my current health may be dependent on my answer. While I understand that what you're doing takes a great deal of effort, believe me I do, Naruto. Your pace has slowed in the past hour more than what it was originally. Sale flinched as Naruto's gaze rounded on him, his black lips pursed seemingly in thought. Naruto hadn't thought that he had slowed much. Looking down at his paws, he fought back the urge to grumble at how much they stung. It was as if thousands of needles were being pressed into them each second. I didn't notice. Maybe I started being extra cautious without intention. Naruto went to take another step only for a loud crack to ring out from his body. He bit back the urge to scream as his front paws shifted and broke, again and again to reform into near human-looking hands, though still covered in his fox fur with his claws in place. Sale quickly sped up, stopping beside Naruto and taking a quick peek. The new paws with thumbs shifted to hide under Naruto's body. Hey, are you okay? The parasite was confused. He hadn't heard of things like this before. He did have some theories that quickly poured through his head. More important than that right now was Naruto. There was a hollow stalking them. While if it was a Jillian, Sale had no doubt he could take it himself, but Nelliel might attack during that time. He was no match for her. Though with Naruto still around, she wouldn't step out of line due to the fear she had of him. They're a touch sensitive, but not so much that I can't strangle you for talking too much. Naruto picked up a fistful of sand and scattered it out in front of him. I need you to be a bit more alert at the moment, Sail. It is not only my front paws that hurt. I understand, Naruto, though, and I am loath to correct you, but I believe you meant to say sensitive there. Sail gave a faint smile as he watched the vulpine lips pull into a smirk. We are ready to move, yes? Naruto rolled his weight around on his shoulders. He took another stride forward and continued at a slightly faster pace. Soon they started to head further down before the sky was blocked completely with the roof of Earth. Some kind of bioluminescence was high above them, showing them in a faint blue light. Another hour of walking had them stopped in front of a large gate. Naruto's eyes quickly scanned the area, taking notice of the large amounts of erasure in the air. It quickly whipped past the large stone gate that was bearing them in trance and dashed into two stone statues that stood on either side. Each statue stood as tall as a 3-story building. They ripped blades fitting their size from the walls and held them tight with both hands. Ah, Naruto, I don't know if you've noticed, Bu. Yes, we have large statues moving to attack us, the fox retorted blandly. Don't move. Sail and Nelliel froze on the spots, but the statues continued to move. Naruto narrowed his gaze on them. I told you not to move. The stone shook. It went to take another step only to pause as Naruto's tails whipped into the air. Thou shan't not waver, thou blade not still till thine Tempestus arrives, Naruto muttered out. The statues knelt on either side of Naruto, their heads bowed low. Thine Tempestus wisps us from slumber. Caught within thine Tempestus we shake, we falter, we return. Enter thine Tempestus. Stone shifted as the gates ground open. Naruto means maelstrom. Seafaring folk often believe that maelstrom happened during storms or just prior to them. It seems like whoever closed these gates knew I would come here. It is written that the guards will only stop for the Tempestus or the storm. With a bad of misguided translation, my name could also be said to mean storm. When was someone last here, Sail? Be by guesswork, I would have to say at the earliest 400 years. But if that was the case, then wow. A parasite once told me that hollows sometimes exhibit special powers. I can sense things through the air much better and for much further than anyone you have met, so much so that I can make out distant formations that are days away from being able to be seen. Nell here can absorb the energy of others, and you can make corpses give birth. Is it that strange that the ability to see the future is one such ability? Naruto's words caused Sail to pause. It is more than possible. Though does that not beg the question, if they could see the future, what brought their end? I know I don't really have a say in this, but can I just bring up the fact that I really want to leave here, like as soon as possible? Nelliel's words seemed to fall on deaf ears as Naruto moved forward into the gates. He paused a little and turned to the stone guards. Que est in calibrum. Sail quickly caught up to Naruto, and Nelliel was not that far behind, her hooves beating against the stone and causing her to flinch each time. Into the belly of the beast then, she muttered out, still not overly fond of the idea of raiding the kingdom of ancient hollows. Sail though looked towards Naruto when they felt parallel. What did you say to the guards? Let the snake through. Our follower is a snake, though she seems to hold an interest in us, one that is not the need to fight and throw her life away. Naruto gave a small shrug as he reached the top of the steps, a large door creaking open as light flooded his eyes. A beautiful sight of tall buildings carved perfectly and stretching into the sky while water calmly ran down from them filled his eyes for the briefest of moments. That scene was replaced by the reality of what was in front of him. The destruction and erosion of time. Well, let's start searching. This place is pretty damn big, though there is a large amount of erasure everywhere. Yes, it is incredibly dense, so much so that it is unnatural, possibly done on purpose to slow or completely halt the effects of regression. I would be interested to see its source, the scientist muttered to himself. Just remember what I asked you to do. Because even despite this erasure thing of theirs, their civilization still fell. Naruto slapped one of the stones at his feet, watching it skip along the paved path. Stagnation is what turns a predator to prey. Sail nodded at the sagely words of Naruto, while Nelliel was still looking around in awe and fear. We really shouldn't be here, not that anyone is listening to me at this point. Why not? The guards let him pass. Is it not his duty to discover what was left behind for him? A new voice called, causing Sail and Nell to spin around in shock. My name is Cyan Sungsun, for those that were wondering. The amount of times I have watched those two crush foolish Ajuchas is uncountable at this point, though they always allowed me to clean up the mess. And now that someone has finally been let inside, you want to see what it was that they were protecting, Naruto mused to himself. Just so you know, I have no problem eating you. I don't even need to be hungry, I will consume you just for the sake of it, so don't give me a reason to Cyan. Well, that is more than fair. A faint chuckle left her. Can I bother the other two without drawing your wrath then? Please do. I think I like you, Mr. Fox. It's Naruto, also I'm not a fox. Vamping. Naruto's clawed feet struck against the soft sand in a rushed pace. His armored-plated bone legs on full display. Behind him were 9 blue tails that swayed from side to side with his movements. His spear clutched effortlessly in his clawed hand. He felt a flare of Ryatsu from this direction a while ago. It was outside his kingdom's borders, but it was close enough that he couldn't overlook it. After all, it was not in his nature to turn a blind eye to someone in need, and that was exactly what he figured this was. The flare was not controlled like it may have been if someone were using it to scare others away. No, it was rushed and panicked, being used to draw attention towards the user. A large dune was in front of him. With little effort he jumped into the air, clearing it, and seeing the scene below him. A small group of hollows, numbering only 4, was surrounded by a much larger one. The blonde hollow dropped down, blowing sand out in all directions. For added effect, the blonde twirled his spear, blue-black Ryatsu flicking from its tip, cold blue eyes narrowed on the Ajuchas in front of him. He was part of the larger group and he held a venomous look towards the blonde. I thought I told you to piss off. I don't want your kind near my borders. Hunting those that want to escape this bestial lifestyle we are forced to live. One of the hollows beside the one Naruto was addressing laughed. You have no presence, what do you expect to do? Naruto raised his free hand, frowning as he looked at the hollow that spoke out of turn. Desk error. Tear apart. He flicked his hand forward, like it was too much effort, the hollow being ripped apart by what seemed like nothing. This is your last chance. If I catch you near my kingdom again I won't stop with just one. Now piss off, Yami. Naruto's tone was kept even as he stared down the large hollow. Yami slowly backed away, the group of hollows that moved with him following. This isn't over. One day I will be your equal. The blonde gave a small scoff. And one day I'll bend my knee to the Shinigami like Baragon and his group of fools. With a small wave of his spear he watched the hollows run. Once they were far enough away he let his tails wrap around his legs again, giving him that robed look. Which one of you was flaring your Ryatsu like the world was going to end? He questioned, slowly turning around to see what could possibly be the strangest group of hollows he had ever had the pleasure of seeing. A lion, a shark, a bat and a panther. Not a single one of them would look him in the eye. Sorry, where are my manners? The name is Naruto. Leader of Sinfonia de la Furiosa Tormenta. Symphony of the Raging Storm. I assume you were looking for us? Either that or you needed help and have no idea what sector you just walked into. I have to admit though, you are a pretty strange-looking group, no offense meant, I just find the build-up of your members odd. The shark narrowed its eyes on Naruto before speaking with a soft, feminine voice. You are Vasta Lord? It was a strange enough question, but from the looks he was receiving, she was clearly not the only one who wanted an answer to it. Yeah, I am a little more relaxed than the others. So sorry if I don't fit the picture you expected, but in saying that, you hurt anyone from my kingdom, and your life becomes forfeit. He stated coldly, taking in the different reactions he received from the group. They seemed to be shifting under his gaze. I'm not going to ask you to follow me, that is up to you. We have already had this life forced onto us. I don't believe in making you do anything more. If you wish to come with, then do. If not, well, you can wait here for a few days then leave. I do not like those that creep around my borders. Naruto turned on his feet when a voice called out, causing him to pause mid-step. Hold your horses, I'm coming with. It was the panther, and from the looks of things he was speaking for the group, as each gave a stern nod. I guess these guys are as well. The name is Grimjaw Jagerjacks, and I am the most talkative of the group if you haven't figured out already. Naruto turned around to face them again, his brow risen behind his fox mask. That's okay, everyone has their reasons for what they do. All I would ask right now is their name. The lion gave a small bow of her head. Francesca Mila rose. Ulquiorra Cipher, and until now I have had no reason to speak. The bat-like Ajucha stated in a dull monotone. His body completely covered with bone, while 2 large wings were attached to his arms. The shark-like hollow was by far one of the strangest things the blonde Vasta Lord had seen. Her form was rather bulky, with large razor-sharp teeth attached to the nearly oversized mask that covered her head completely. A large fin erupting from her back and her elbows, giving her some strange landshark appearance. He watched in interest as she knelt down, her body twitching, and Naruto instantly stopping her. His hands lightly gripping onto her arms and lifting her back to her feet. I don't like people bowing to me, in any form. Not only this, but it looks like the action causes you pain, so please don't miss? The Ajuchas widened her eyes behind her mask, giving a small nod to the blonde before her, Tir Halibel. I thank you for your generosity and will make it up to you in any way possible. Naruto shook his head. You don't need to make it up to me, just do the small tasks given to you each day like everyone else, and take care of yourselves. That is all I can ask of you. Do this and you will fit in. A few hours had passed as the group traveled back slowly. They were terrified of what they saw. A dark gray cloud fell from the black night sky down to the sand below. It is going to get very loud as we get closer, so when I open the path, enter. You can admire it when we are safe inside. Naruto informed and continued walking forward, holding his hand out as small drops of rain landed on his hand. He watched as those behind him were marveled by the feat. Grimjaw naturally had to give a scoff at what Naruto said. While the rain, which they hadn't even heard of before, was impressive, he doubted that anything could top that. It was starting to become clear that Naruto was telling the truth. They could already hear the thunderous sounds of the clouds. The blonde moved forward faster and placed his free hand against a large cloud, his lips moving but no one able to pick up what he was saying. Then in a flash his tail shot out and stabbed into the cloud, pulling it open for the others. He waved the others to enter and watched as they did, breaking past the wall as the blonde jumped through and let it close behind him. He watched as their eyes went wide. It was nearly silent inside the cloud. A gentle hum, that changed its tone and tune every now and again, was the only noise they could hear. Their feet shifting on the strange ground below them. Welcome to my kingdom. The ground you are standing on is called concrete. You can walk on the sand like normal, or along the paths. It matters little, they were made as an experiment of sorts. Some of us like them, others don't. Everything you see around you was built by the hollows that live here. So I would ask you to be respectful. If you'll follow me, we can find a place for each of you. As you may have guessed by now, there are areas that work on researching new technology for us to use. Others that keep our borders clean and search for other hollows that are in trouble. Plus, with recent developments, we have a group that is working towards this thing called farming. They had seen humans doing it during one of their expeditions and wanted to see if we could reproduce the effects. And finally, there is a group of people like myself. We make sure that everything is okay and everyone is happy. If there are any problems, we ask that you come to us first so we may sort things out. Naruto quickly informed the group, watching as their heads nodded dumbly, trying to process everything he had said. He quickly waved them to follow again as he stepped onto the path and gave a small sigh of relief. He rather disliked the sand, it always got caught in between his toes and under his claws. The group walked for a while in relative silence, approaching a large, almost castle-like structure, its large doors swinging open as a rather tall hollow came bounding out. Naruto, how many times do I have to tell you not to just go out on your own? A long time had passed since Naruto had become a Vasto Lord. That much was clear from seeing the new form of the hollow in front of him, a centaur, with a white chestplate covering her breasts. Long green hair flowed down her back with a few strands falling just past her eyes, a strong white helmet resting atop her head with two large horns coming out from either side. Nell, you truly worry too much. A long blue tail unwrapped itself from Naruto and gently poked the other Vasto's lord's nose. I was fine. Plus I found some interesting people while I was out there. The blonde trailed off, tilting his head back to the group behind him. Oh, sorry I didn't see you guys there. My name is Nelliel Bleach, but everyone just calls me Nell. I'm a Vasto Lord along with Naruto. Here I am, don't really have much more to add, so I guess I'll just tag along with you guys for a bit, seeing as someone skipped out on lunch again. Her accusing eyes drifted back to Naruto, and she gave him a small glare. Yeah, he knew he was in trouble. Naruto gave a small shrug as he met her gaze, gently sliding a tail along the side her face causing her to giggle. I felt someone flaring Ryatsu like crazy. I wasn't about to ignore it. I understand you were worried, but you should know that as long as the cloud stays around us, I'm fine. He gave a wide smile which calmed the girl. She still had a small pout on her face but gave a stern nod nonetheless. Fine, but next time you plan to do something like that. Nell paused for effect, something that made the other hollows around them stiffen, not quite sure what to expect to come from her mouth. Take me with you. It can get boring around here without you and the others around. That had definitely not been what they had expected. If their shocked faces were anything to go by, that is, sure, but come, I will need you to escort the females to their living quarters when we are done speaking. Naruto's words caused the two in question to stiffen and look offended at what they thought he was suggesting. They always give you the same look, any? Nell remarked before letting out a small sigh. Males and females are kept in separate zones. This is purely because some of the females have been mistreated by male hollows in the past and no longer trust them. There are places where both of the sexes can live next to one another, but Naruto lets them make that choice in their own time. Also, thinking poorly on his actions will not make you any friends around here. He may have dropped a hint earlier, but in case you didn't catch it, he is the one holding the protective cloud around us. Naruto waved them down again, quickly becoming tired of the action. Come on, let's get inside and get finished with the introductory things. It was now done pretty quickly. Each was given this thing called paper. It was something that the humans used to write on. The funny lines on the paper were impossible to read, but the blonde just smiled. I gained some memories of my former life when I became a Vasto Lord. Don't worry, I have taught many people around here how to read and write," he said, not installing much faith in the Ajuches. Tyr smirked. Apparently it had the rules and stuff of what they could and couldn't do inside of the cloud. It all seemed simple enough to her when it was explained. She couldn't understand how someone could be stupid enough to need to have a constant reminder. A certain panther sneezed before glaring around him, trying to find anything out of place. Seeing nothing of the sort, he continued to follow the blonde in front of him, desperately trying to remember what he has said. Tyr watched the green-haired Vasto Lord in front of her with cautious eyes. She was listing the different groups that worked in this strange cloud city, keeping it safe for everyone else. When she was done, the shark-like hollow let out a sigh. None of those groups seemed to fit me, she trailed. Nell looked up with a smile. There's one last one, but it doesn't get that many jumping at it. You would be working with Naruto, checking the borders and making sure everyone is getting along well. He can do it himself, but if I don't send people with him, well, he is a trouble magnet. If I leave him alone for too long, then something is bound to happen. Mila Rose wanted to give a shot at gardening. Seeing as she had those large paws of her, she might as well put them to work, right? Tyr felt like smirking slightly. I take after a shark. Tracking is one of the things I excel at. I think that would be the best position for myself. Also, didn't he go off by himself to show the males where they would be staying? He freaking did it on purpose. I'm going to wring his neck. Pardon me, girls, but I feel the fox hunt calling me. Nell excused herself as they stood outside the female section, the Vasto having already covered a fair amount of distance before skidding to a stop. Oh, ask for Cyan-chan, she will show you around and help you out with anything you need. Quickly taking off again afterwards, a large cloud of dust being kicked up behind her. Halibel-sama, was this really the best choice of action? Mila asked in a hushed tone, causing the shark-like hollow to frown beneath her mask. I don't know, Mila Rose. I will try to get close to this Naruto, see if he has any ulterior motives, and maybe. She was cut off when a cheery voice spoke up from beside them. Not going to work, the voice nearly sung to them, causing them both to look around in shock at having someone sneak up on them. The name is Cyan Sunsung, and I'll tell you right now, he'll see through your intentions right away. I found that if you are honest with him, he'll be honest back. You need to worry about Nell though. She'll become really angry if she hears of you talking like this about Naruto. Tyr narrowed her eyes on the snake. I take it you will tell them? She questioned, getting ready to defend herself and Mila if need be. Nope. Because I was in the same position as you. That was some time ago though. Before we moved and all that, but I can understand how you are feeling. Trust me, if you wanted to get away from all the fighting, you came to the right place. Things are pretty quiet here, well apart from when the boys go a bit overboard and start fighting with one another for fun. Also, before you think I am joking, I'm not. They have this giant list of everyone that entered and each one of them agrees to it and the rules they put in place. They can get restless from time to time, but Naruto and Nell have set firm rules that they are not allowed here. And yes, they follow their own rules. Naruto won't come over this way. That's why he sent Nell with you, also because he likes to play with her and knows doing this will get her riled up. The snake Ajuches informed as she studied the two in front of her. The group stopped moving as they felt small flares from around the cloud raise up one after another. Seeing the looks of confusion on the two new additions' faces, Cyan gave a small sigh. They are just letting us know that the changeover went fine. Now let's get you all settled in. Mila Rose-san, I help with the farming and gardening so I can take you with me in the morning, but sadly Halibel-san, Naruto is very picky about who he takes out of the cloud. You'll have to prove to him that you are not your average Ajuches. He doesn't want to see us hurt, so he will only take the best of the best that want to go out with him. But anyway, come, let's get you settled in. Naruto looked at the two in front of him with his lips pressed into a thin line. Around his neck seemed to sit his spear in necklace form, hanging horizontally with the sharp tips pointing out on each side. You both want to join me on patrols? That right? His question was quickly answered by two silent but stiff nods. Well, your Ryatsu seem to be quite strong, but having large amounts of Ryatsu does not make you strong. It is how you use it. The blonde gave his head a small shake, watching as the panther seemed to become quite aggravated at what he said. It seemed like a confrontation was rapidly approaching. Thankfully for all those in the area, a gentle cough caused the two hot heads to turn their heads to the side. Tyr looked over the group of three. Yes, there were quite a few hollows that had gathered around them. She even heard some putting bets down on what move Naruto would use to show them they weren't ready. The new arrivals had only been here a day, so they were still trying to get used to some of the strange everyday things that hollows did around here. Plus, they were still trying to find a place where they felt they could be of help. Tyr-san, what can I do for you? Naruto questioned, somewhat happy for the interruption. Halibel gave a small nod of her head. I too would like to join this patrol group. I have heard you are hesitant to take new members in, so I propose that myself, Grimjaw and Ulquiorra. Have a mock battle, showing you that we are capable of handling ourselves? Of course, if you're still not pleased afterwards, we will drop the subject and find another group to join. Naruto stroked the fangs that rested on his face and thought, I do like people that can think. If Grimjaw and Okuiora agree, I have no problem. Smart move, Tear-san. The Fox Vasto Lord watched as the bat took to the air, flying high above the two ground-bound Ijuchas. Naruto bit into his thumbs, flicking them out to the side and erecting a tall wind tower around them. You cannot go as hard as you want without killing one another, of course. He received 3 quick nods before the trio quickly got back to work. One thing he noticed quickly was that Grimjaw was not one for thinking, but he had no issues with following commands. He watched as they alternated between 2v1 and free-for-all. He had already decided that he would accept them if they asked. Each of them seemed to have this certain strength of will, one that he found pleasant. For every attack, there was a counter-attack that was blocked. It was like a well-choreographed fight. He had seen enough. He started a slow clap and lowered the barrier that split them from the observers. The Ijuchas stopped what they were doing, turning to face Naruto as he continued to clap. Pretty good. I see you 3 can work well together, the blonde trailed, not giving an outright answer. Tear once again tried to bow before Naruto. Despite what he said earlier, she was taught to respect others, even if she did not trust the blonde at the moment, his strength and ability to create some semblance of peace in these wastelands. As she lowered herself, despite her protesting body, Naruto quickly grabbed onto her arms and lifted her back to her feet. I thought I told you not to do that, Tear-san. The Ijuchas once again just gave a small nod as Naruto removed his hands and gave her a smile. Sorry, but have you made a decision? Naruto cracked his neck to the side, his spear swaying with the action. It was something that Tear thought about. She hadn't seen Nelliel carry a weapon around with her, and while Naruto had those sharp claws of his, plus his strange weather powers, she still remembered that spear and the way he bent Ryatsu with it. Was it possible for him to change its size, making it easier for him to carry around? Naruto cleared his throat, giving a small scratch to the back of his head. Yeah, I'll take you guys out with me, but first I want to train you each a little. Your skills are good, but a little rough around the edges. If that is all good with you, meet me back here tomorrow. The Vasto Lord slowly moved away from the trio, giving them an over-the-shoulder wave. His form vanishing into the distance as the sound of hooves entered their ears. Nell coming to a skidding stop beside the group, her head snapping around. It was at this point that Tear noticed a necklace much like Naruto's around her neck. Where'd he go? I could have sworn he was just here. Nell practically roared. A few hollows around them took nervous steps backwards. Naruto headed over towards the Granzas. A rather spooked hollow spluttered out, causing Nell to give a large smile. Thank you, that hollow always skips out on his meals. The Vasto gave a small sigh before galloping after the fox. The hollows around the trio lifted their fingers, slowly counting down for something by the looks of things. Lady Nelliel. 2 Ijuchas called as they came running, huffing and puffing. The bystanders just lifted their hands in the direction she took off in, watching the 2 strange-looking hollows chasing down Nelliel. Tear looked in the direction of where everyone seemed to be running. Nelliel-san seems to be quite attached to Naruto-san. Okuiora looked over in the same direction, giving a small nod. Some of the others say that they have been partners since Naruto-sama became an Ijuchas. How the hell do you know that? Grimjaw nearly roared at the bat-like hollow. Because I actually pay attention when people around me talk, the winged man stated without emotion. TSK team. Kami was a goddess in every sense of the word, normally anyway. 200 years ago she made a deal with her sister, one that caused them to swap jobs with one another for some time. You could picture her surprise when she arrived back and found that one of her special souls was no longer in her domain. Searching for one Uzumaki Naruto was a task in itself. He mostly spent his time hidden away inside some giant storm cloud one not even her powers could penetrate. But when she finally got a glimpse of the soul, her heart dropped to her feet. Such a kind and pure soul turned hollow because of her idiot sister. Not only that, but for him to have gained so much power in such a short amount of time? Her feet hit paved ground. Guards tried to stop her from advancing, but one look from the angry woman froze them in their tracks. With a flick of her wrist, heavy red doors were flung open, nearly snapping them from their hinges. A young man sat behind a desk, his eyes widening upon seeing the pure anger in her eyes. The Soul King could honestly say he had never seen the kind and caring Kami, so not herself? Benny! The King of Souls let out a low groan. That was not his name, yes, Kami-sama? He wouldn't dare question it with the goddess as she was now. Uzumaki Naruto. That was a name, one that the king had heard often, not to mention he had people constantly searching the districts of Soul Society for him. But alas, he had held no such luck. My men are still looking for him. We have had no luck so far. Sorry, Kami-sama. The woman in white gently moved a few strands of hair behind her ear and narrowed her gaze on the man before her. Call them off, there is no point. My sister fucked up big time. Benny ignored the curse that was dropped in front of him. Now was not the time for such things anyway. Was he entered back into the cycle or reincarnation? If so, I can just have someone watch over him, make sure everything is okay. She made him hollow. That sentence froze the air in the room. Benny looked around at his guards and waved them off. This was not something they needed to hear, are you sure? Cammy spread her hands out in front of her, bringing up the blonde before he died, and when she was last able to get a visual of him. Sure, the top half of his face wasn't visible because of the mask, but the structure and even the fox-like traits made it all too easy to see that it was the same man. I'm pretty damn sure. Do you honestly think I would be here, in this stupid-ass palace, if I wasn't? My palace is not stupid. Benny inwardly thought. He looked between the two images and frowned. This looks like a Vasto Lord, but that can't be. Not enough time has passed, right? Wrong, Kurama. While his intentions were good, and would have been had he become a Shinigami when Naruto became a hollow, Kurama's chakra drastically increased his evolution and power. Their friendship and bonds has created a hollow of monstrous strength. While he doesn't seem incredibly hostile towards Shinigami, he is not a big fan of them, not to mention he has a kingdom, and even a second Vasto Lord following him. Sister fucked up big time. Cammy clutched onto her own arms tightly, a deep frown adorning her face, her previous anger no longer present. I wanted to give him a second chance to have a happy life, his last one. No matter how hard he tried, no matter how many people he saved, how many wars he ended, he was still seen as a monster. The Soul King shifted behind his desk. He could see the regret in her eyes, forcing him to sigh internally. We'll storm his kingdom and purify his soul. He should be easy enough to track once he enters Soul Society. You won't be able to enter his kingdom. It's inside a storm cloud that not even my powers can penetrate. Purify him if you can, but I will be honest. If you go to war against him, don't expect to come away with all of your soldiers. He is smart, incredibly so, and he would go down fighting to his last breath. Benny, if you can, please try to speak to his rational side first. Cammy slowly faded from view, clearly having spoke her part. Benny looked down at his desk and frowned. Uzumaki Naruto, I don't even know you, yet you're already causing me a headache. I should inform Soul Society, they need to know about a threat like you. A sneeze left Naruto, causing his face to scrunch up cutely as he pouted. Someone must be talking about me. Seo looked towards the blonde with a happy smile on his face. Only good things, I could assume. But as I was saying, if I could just have a handful of us enter the human world again, we would be able to have great leaps in our technology again. The Ajuchas looked like a strange humanoid octopus. He was very happy that Naruto had found him and his brother. Under the blonde, regardless if the blonde would admit they were his underlings or not, he was really able to feed that strange craving for knowledge that he had. Naruto seemed to be in deep thought for a while before shrugging his shoulders. I don't see why not. I want you to make sure that we don't draw attention to ourselves though, understood? Oh, and also, were you able to get those 3 bracelets I asked you for? Seo sent one of his tentacles backwards and fiddled around on the bench behind him for a moment, slowly bringing it back and showing 3 rings. They were simple bands, each with a small vial attached to them. You and your patrol groups, at least it gives me something to do while I wait for new things to research. I'm glad, after all, I couldn't have done all of this without you, Seo. Naruto stated proudly, taking the devices from the hollow and shaking his hand. The scientist gave a bright smile. Least I could do, you and Lady Nelliel saved us after all. Plus you have given me many interesting tasks to look into. Naruto narrowed his eyes at the man. The same action was returned to him, the once joyful atmosphere vanishing in a second. And the special task? I am nearly done. I believe you should have all your answers within a few years. I've just been so busy with it lately that I need a break. As I said, a trip to the human world will allow me to refocus on the important things. Seo told him honestly. He had been working on the same task for nearly a decade now, and it was starting to wear on him. The blonde nodded and released the hollow's hand. Understood. You have my permission, like I said, but don't force anyone. You know the rules. Hi. I'll behave well mostly. The Ajuchas gave a small chuckle at his own words. Now don't you have to speak to your people, Naruto-sama? I already told you to drop the sama, deadpanned the blonde. The action merely caused the scientist to give in to full-blown laughter. Good one, Naruto-sama. But you are deserving of the respect I give you, thus I will not simply stop. Plus I enjoy it. It is good to know I am not in charge. The Vasto Lord sighed. Remind me again why I am the leader? 'Cause someone else would get it wrong. Seo responded without a second of thought. Much like you always bring me the difficult tasks, because someone else would do a subpar job. Naruto shook his head with a smirk. thanks for the reminder. Just remember to let me know when you are taking the expedition so I can keep an ear out and tighten the defenses. Will do, Commander. Just make sure to keep Lady Nelliel out of my labs. I really am thankful to her, but she really does create such a mess in that form. Naruto could sympathize with the man, he really could. Nell's Vastolord form was too large, but he couldn't tell her that. She was beyond ecstatic when she evolved, just more of a reason to look into that, am I correct? The Ajuchi shook his head and chuckled. I see your point. Now if you will excuse me, Naruto-sama, I would like to get back to work. The blonde waved a hand into the air. Yeah. Talk to you soon, Sail. Naruto gave a warm smile as he left what some would call the creepy labs. The bright moonlight hit his eyes and he gave a small frown, walking forward to where he would meet the new recruits. He had spent the past couple of days training them, and deemed them ready to go on their first patrol. It was not much of a shock that when he arrived at the meeting place, they were already waiting for him. He jingled the bracelets in his hands. These will allow for you to move through the cloud without injury. The first few times you are to stay within my line of sight. When I deem you strong enough, and see that you won't be a threat to the safety of those living in the cloud, you will be able to do your rounds at any time, and will no longer need to return these to me at the end of each shift. Tyr rose a brow at his words, while Ulquiorra nodded sharply. Grimjaw for once didn't have much to say nor express. You do not trust us? The shark-like Ajuchis questioned, somewhat hesitant for his answer. Trust normally meant you weren't seen as suspicious, meaning you were not on the list of possible executions. At least that was how it worked in the smaller kingdoms she had been in. Naruto shook his head. I trust each of you with my life, and I want to ease you into the responsibility of protecting the lives of everyone in the cloud. That is what this position means. Everyone inside of here depends on us to keep them safe. I know the cloud is strong, but even I don't know how much punishment it would take before it was split apart. Halibel widened her eyes at that, having not thought of the situation in such a light. She would be responsible for Mila Rose's protection. Not to mention Sun Sung, who had started to grow on her. That bubbly but crafty snake. Now she was starting to feel like she wouldn't be able to do the job properly. She seemed to lean away from the blonde, something Naruto picked up instantly. A little worried now, Tyr-san? His question earned a small nod from the Ajuchis. I didn't think about it properly, and I don't know if I am comfortable with being in control of the safety of others. Naruto walked forward and clapped the bracelet onto her wrist with a large smile on his face. The act shocked her, causing him to give a warm laugh. I believe in you. That kind of attitude is what I look for here. It is clear you care about others, even if it be only a few. I'll show you what you need to do. Just trust in me, Tyr, and I will make sure you don't let down those you care about. The blonde moved forward and clapped the other bracelets onto the new Ajuchis. Ulquiorra received his on his wrist like Tyr, while Grimjaw had his attached to the tail that was deadly still. The blue band was something of an oddity. They each looked at the small vial on it with high levels of curiosity. Tyr slowly changed her vision to the two beside her, wondering why they didn't have to give some sort of questioning speech like she had. That vial is concentrated Ryatsu for myself. As you may remember from when we arrived, I walked up to the wall and placed my tail into it, pulling it open. Well, that vial will allow you to do the same. Also, I have been speaking to Grimjaw and Ulquiorra already. Mr. Panther enjoys fighting, while our Dark Knight here likes order and routine. Sure, there are other positions they could be in, but I spoke to them about it, and both liked the idea. Naruto waved them to follow as they approached the cloud. Now channel your Ryatsu towards the bracelet or tail clip for some, and wrap it around my own. Slowly push it towards where you plan to make contact with the wall. Like so. Naruto lifted his hands towards the raging cloud. They watched it slowly turn to a lighter gray before wrapping around his hands. I know it looks different. That's because I am not ripping it open, merely moving through it. Once you have made the connection, stretch the light gray cloud over your form and slowly walk inside. Just keep walking forward and I shall see you on the other side. They watched as the Vastolord was swallowed in the protective cloud, vanishing from their view. Nell slowly walked up behind the group with a large smile on her face. I remember my first time too. I was so scared. I watched when that group of hollows tried to invade and were electrocuted by the wall. Thankfully you didn't have to see that, so it shouldn't be as scary for you. Nell walked forward and passed straight through the wall without any problem. We weren't worried, Tyr mumbled, unable to get the picture of dying hollows out of her mind. Slowly she did as instructed, feeling the strange sensation of Naruto's Ryatsu forming a protective layer around her. She could nearly taste the water in the thin layer of cloud. Little did she know that her two companions were much the same, only feeling slightly different elements. Tyr broke from the cloud. Taking a deep breath, she looked around to see Naruto and Nell standing there with knowing looks on their faces. Feeling refreshed, Tyr? Naruto questioned, seeing how she stiffened him, and Nell gave a small chuckle. I would ask why, but you would merely ask for me to wait until the other two arrive. Tyr stated calmly, seeing the foxy hollow smile widen. Naruto gently tilted his head to the side. You are learning my behavior quite quickly, Tear. It's a little spooky. Are you stalking me? He gave a small shriek and jumped up into Na's arms as she held the shuddering Vasto Lord. Halibel looked at the blonde in shock. This was the man that hundreds of hollows followed, nearly without question. With a sigh she hung her head, simply wishing for the others to hurry up. Thankfully it didn't take much longer. Now that everyone is here, I shall explain what you felt when you moved through the cloud. My Ryatsu was seeing if it was compatible with you all, but from what I have noticed so far, I am either a universal donor or I just have awesome picking abilities. He was placed back on the ground and spread his arms out wide. I am a storm fox. Or as some stuck-up skeleton may call me, the Crimson Storm. This means, each of you is an elemental type hollow. Naruto nearly clapped his hands in joy, but we shall go into that further when we return. For now stay with Nell or myself, we'll show you what to do. Tier POV. I kept the appearance that my eyes were taking in my surroundings, but the majority of my attention was drawn to the blonde fox-like hollow. He was beyond strange, but it felt almost like an act. His head turned to face me, those piercing blue eyes, so much like ice, nearly froze me on the spot. Without saying a word he faced the front again, looking over the desert, seemingly back to doing his self-appointed duties. He spoke of protecting others. I even felt how calm and protecting his Ryatsu seemed to be, yet I couldn't bring myself to just trust in my feelings. I needed proof. Plus, what was all this talk of elemental hollows? He said I was one. Does this mean I would become like him? My turn to look at Grimjaw. He had a small prance in his step, enjoying the concept of gaining more power. I knew that was the reason he followed me. Now it seemed to be the very same reason for why he would follow this Naruto. I felt around me. Nelliel's aura was faint, but I could tell that it held great power. Naruto, on the other hand, I couldn't even get a small feel of his aura. I furrowed my brows in concentration, pushing the limits of my ability to sense those around me, an act that did not pass by the fox. Trying to probe me at Tear? All you had to do was ask, you know? He held that small smirk of his, like this was all some kind of game. The others looked towards me and I gave a sharp nod, trying to show that he was correct in his assumptions. I gave a small cough, clearing my throat. I cannot sense your Ryatsu. I was just wondering why not. My question seemed to affect him. His smile vanished and a pensive look came over his face. It slowly turned into a warm smile, a small laugh escaping his lips. My Ryatsu is depressing, so I hide it from people. The tears I never cried as a human granted me the control of water, the words I wasted trying to spread joy and peace, air, and the energy I used to protect those that mattered to me, lightning. The deeds of my past life gave me the power to make a difference here. If I have to hide my aura of despair from the rest of the world to do so, I shall. Without any regret, even if it makes me seem weak at times. He stated calmly, brushing a few strands away from his face. It was in that moment, I noticed he was not the fool he acted like at times. He was just trying to make us happy. Happy, that was a word I had almost forgotten. Would I really be able to feel an emotion as joyful as that though? A better question would be, did I deserve such a thing? I had to become a monster to survive. I had taken the lives of so many that I could no longer consider myself noble, nor deserving of joy. I gave a small shake of my head, clearing the thoughts I harbored. I apologize for bringing it up, Naruto-sama. I watched as the edges of his mouth twitched. It was not a joyful twitch though, as it slowly turned into a frown. He took a few terrifying steps towards me, resting a hand on my shoulder and looking into the eyes behind my mask, his head tilted to the side in a childish manner. If I want you to trust in me, I first need to place trust in you. I want to be seen as a comrade by each of you, not some bossy man. If you have questions, feel free to ask. I will answer them to the best of my ability, but finally please don't add Sama to my name. I do not want mindless drones. I want friends, people I can count on to watch my back as I will theirs. His tone was even, but it was like he was asking us a question, not just telling us what he wanted. Naruto slowly backed away and I was able to release a breath I had not been aware of holding at bay. I doubt that he meant to scare me. With the words he had just spoken, it would be counterproductive. It was just like he was trying to draw my attention purely to him. I was able to see the storm of emotion inside of his eyes. No, despite his attitude, this hollow was no child. His power was impossible to even try to imagine. I could still hear the roaring of the storm cloud behind us. The one thing that stopped others from trying to disrupt the small semblance of peace he had managed to obtain, a power that had wrapped around me, accepted me. Normal. Naruto lifted his hand up to his ear, showing off some strange piece of technology, his voice a murmur to the rest of the group. Nell was able to pick up the name Sale, letting her know he was talking to the head scientist. She watched a parade of emotions fly across the blonde's face, before finally setting on a grim visage. We'll be back soon, Please continue and inform me more when I arrive. Naruto spoke softly, before his teeth started to bare and a faint chuckling was heard as the line went dead. Nell carefully watched Naruto to see how he would react, already knowing how Sayo finished the conversation. You okay, Naruto? The blonde snapped his head up and smiled to the group. Yeah, our rounds are done for today. Sayo thinks he has had a breakthrough in the project and will need our help for a bit. Nell, meaning your ban from his labs has been lifted temporarily. Nell gave a small cheer as she started pushing Naruto back towards the cloud, talking about how important it was for them to get a move on. The blonde himself gave a small smirk. Project Hoja del Alma, Blade of Soul, was now well underway. Author note: Naruto's tails? His 9 blue tails will make up his cloth-like bottoms most time unless he is in combat, hence why I was not so fazed about giving him a spear for his weapon. More will be added on to that in later chapters, but I can say that he won't be using some long-ass weapon where if someone gets past its reach he is fucked. Naruto speaking Spanish? I am sticking pretty close to Bleach in that regard, where Hollow's abilities are given Spanish names. Yami? Some of you may be a little surprised at that, thinking I was going to have everyone meet up and instantly become friends. Not going to happen. There will be enemies. Tear Ulquiorra, Grimjaw and Mila Rose all meeting up with Naruto. It's an odd group as Naruto pointed out. There will be more explained about it, but some reasons are given, like Grimjaw's lust for power, and Ulquiorra's need for order. There will be strange interactions because of this. Tear's joint pain? If you guessed she is already sick, then you are a winner. She is still in the very early stages though. It is also why she was not already a Vasto Lord before meeting Naruto. The Storm Cloud Kingdom? It was an idea from Mass Effect 2, a DLC where you got to fight the Shadow Broker anyway. It acts as a barrier, keeping the bad hollows away and the good ones safe inside. Why are we missing the becoming a Vasto Lord? Because she is going to share her story about it when the time comes. There was a large time skip in which many hollows started to follow Naruto and Nell. They will be introduced in the coming chapters as the plot thickens. Nell's not so clumsy attitude? What you are seeing now is their hollow attitudes. You will see glimpses of their true nature, but it won't always be there. Naruto constantly skipping out on meals? As a Vasto Lord, he no longer has to worry about regression. He doesn't like that. He is still expected to eat when they can have food shortages. When times pick up, he will stop skipping meals. Tear not understanding all the things around here? Tear is going to take some time to adapt to all the changes between being a regular hollow and one that is living in a large society that aims to improve. Why are you hating on Grimjaw? I'm not. I really like him, no homo. But I feel that during these slow stages of the story, a little bit of comedy wouldn't hurt every now and again. The groups? Pretty simple really, we would call them jobs. There are people that tend to gardens, those that build the paths. Others would prepare the food for everyone, and another bunch would keep everyone safe. What's with Tear not trust Naruto? I thought they were going to get together. In a dog-eat-dog world, when someone extends their hand to help you, you're going to be hesitant. She is grateful for the help he has given her and Mila Rose, but she will not just turn a blind eye to everything he does. She will ask questions on his morals, among other things. Sun meeting Tear and Mila Rose? Yes, Tear will have her standard fraction in the end. I too enjoy their rambling and the comedic value they added to the show. Ulquiorra? Yes, he is going to point out the obvious, plus come into some rather interesting information at points in time from being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Cammy? Yes, she is still around. Her role will become less and less as the story progresses, but she isn't not watching what is happening. No, she holds no romantic interest in Naruto, but she feels that him becoming a hollow is all her fault. Why the hell did you name the Soul King Benny? I didn't, Cammy did, and she was angry so I just let it go. If you know what is good for you, you should do the same. Sayo. I have made some changes to his character, hopefully you find this enjoyable. Yes, he is the main reason behind most of the advancements in Naruto's kingdom, and yes, he steals lines from Mass Effect. I plan to make him a bit cheeky as you may have seen, but he is incredibly loyal to Naruto for saving the life of him and his brother. I know in canon he cared little for his brother, but like I said, I have made some changes to his character. What have you got planned for the trip to the human world? That is the coming arc, where Soul Society has to open their eyes and deal with a problem they will never have the numbers for. The Ryatsu bracelets? Not that big of a deal really, it is just kind of like a key, for the moment anyway. They may play a larger role in the future, but for now I am still deciding on that. Nell spooking Tyr and the others? Nell will be Nell, she will have those WTF moments that make her that Aaronkar that we all know and love. They will be spread out though, as that is not her true personality yet. Naruto being an idiot? I enjoy a funny Naruto from time to time. He is going to be able to sit down and have a serious conversation, or be a complete badass when needed, but when not much is really asked of him, he can relax and joke around. Tyr POV? Something I am trying, never really wrote in a single person's perspective before. Hopefully it was not a total flop, and actually went quite well. Naruto's memories? When he evolved into a Vasto Lord, he has started to reclaim those fragments he lost as an Ajuchas. While some are still from his reach, and will be for some time, others will start to come back to him. Project Hoja del Alma? Exactly as it sounds, it is the Blade of Soul. Now while that leaves a lot of room for speculation, remember Naruto's old den had something he wanted to protect. What this is, will be left up in the air for a while. A small groan escaped Naruto's mouth as he sat up from his bed, yes, a bed. Something Sail had made for him, seeing them being used by humans the last time he was in their world, their forms seemed to be similar to the blonde's current one. Hence why it was made for the blonde, who could not deny that it was comfortable. Speaking of Sail, the young Hollow had made a breakthrough in his research. What he had expected to take a few more years, would take only a few months with the new information. Today he would be leading a group into the human world. A list of names had already been given for the event. Surprisingly, Sail wanted the new patrol group to tag along with him. Naruto fumbled around his neck, checking to make sure his weapon was still in place, before walking forward onto the tiled surface and summoning some water to wash over him. He remembered bathing to be important before he ended up here? He gave his body a quick shake, some of his fox traits still yet to leave him, before using a warm gust to dry him down. With a tired sigh he walked out of his home. Calling it a home would not do justice though. The place was like a palace, despite Naruto's protests. The Hollows of Symphonia had decided that their leader was not allowed to be outdone by the fool Baragon. Nell was seen walking down the pathway to him, a bright smile on her face. Did you sleep well, Naruto? The bubbly Vasto chirped, giving a small stretch, and feeling her back click into place. I did indeed. Are you going to be joining us today, Nell? Naruto questioned, cracking his fingers and tilting his head to the side, getting a small relieved pop for his action. He watched as she nodded heated, showing she was not planning on being left behind today. Can you round up Tyr and the others for me then? I need to go see Sail quickly before we leave. Nell moved forward and rested her forehead against Naruto's mask, causing him to raise a brow in question at her actions. You're not just going to run off again, are you? Given his past actions, the question was not too far-fetched. The blonde raised a hand and rested it against the side of Nell's face. No, not this time, Nell. A smile tugged at his lips. I won't leave without you again. A strange sensation passed over him. Something moist and warm pressed against his cheek, right near one of his fangs. Nell? He questioned in confusion, seeing her pull away with a confused look of her own. Sorry, but I remember watching those humans do something like that last time we were there. It was a situation much like this, so I just thought that is what you were meant to do. She asked innocently. Naruto raised a hand to his cheeks slowly in confusion, a strange warmth in his stomach, one that felt distantly familiar to him, yet he could not place an emotion he held to it. Possibly, maybe that is something you could look into when we are there today. Little did he know that Nell was feeling the same warmth. She also knew what it really meant. A kiss was meant to be a symbol of care for someone else. It was clear to most that Nell cared a lot about the blonde Vasto Lord. How much, though, no one really knows. Will do, and I will be able to get the others for you, Naruto. Nell watched as he turned away and headed to Sail's place, fighting the small frown that wanted to form. Nelliel POV. I watched that blonde walk away. That's all he really seemed to do these days. I know he is busy and wants to make sure things are running smoothly, but for once, I wish he would just relax so we could spend some time together, like we used to. Plus there was this new Tyr character. Personally, I am not a fan. I know it seems petty, and maybe even a little bit childish, but I feel like she is trying to take my place. Not to mention I am still trying to get a feel for all these emotions that are running around in my head. It isn't meant to feel like a circus in here, right? Well, I hope not, 'cause that would give me a headache pretty quickly. Wait, what's a circus? Anyway, I guess I just feel a little underappreciated. Sure, everyone calls me Lady Nelliel, which is pretty cool, and I keep trying to get them to call me Nell, 'cause that's what Naruto does, but everyone seems to go to him with their problems. I am here to It isn't like I don't know what it is like to be a hollow. Hell, I have been one longer than Naruto. Who do you think it was that taught him? Yeah, well, now that I think about it, in a way people still are coming to me with their issues. I mean, if I taught Naruto, that means that the advice he gives out is partly mine, right? How awesome. It still doesn't help much though. Everyone always sees this happy-go-lucky Nell, 'cause that's what I think they need to see to know everything is still fine. But I don't feel like that. I sometimes wish Naruto had never come up with this idea of a kingdom. I get lonely now, and he seems much more distant, even when we joke around together. Which is spread too far apart between session for my liking, by the way. And look, I managed to rant my entire way to the female side of the kingdom. I gave a sigh, not looking forward to fetching Halibel. She was strong for an Ajuchas, but in the end that was all she was. I could crush her if I wanted. No bad, Nell, stop thinking like that and put on happy smiley face. I felt that corners of my mouth turn upwards, thinking about when it was just myself and Naruto, the fun we used to have running through the desert as Ajuchas. Who would have thought we would have been able to create all this way back then? I knocked gently on her door, already having memorized where she lived. A few moments passed, and I was about to knock again only for the door to open. She stepped out into the light with sluggish movements. I noticed a few new streaks of blue and inwardly cursed she had started to evolve already. Tear POV. I moved to my feet, finding the action more painful than normal. I heard someone knock against the door to my housing. An action that should be addressed promptly if I was informed right. My body felt stiff beyond all logical reasoning. I had actually been taking it a little easier in my training lately, trying to avoid further unexplained injury. Apparently such an act would not help, as I felt much worse than any day prior. In fact, it almost reminded me of my first days as an Ajuchas when I was found by the group of males, always forced to fight at the front of the group. I could feel a slight wheezing in my chest. It was followed by a small but harsh cough, one that made me stumble forward, towards my destination. It was my duty to open this door for the hollow on the other side. One that I was not going to fail in. Upon opening it, I saw Lady Nelliel standing there, her face turning from a bright smile to one of anger, and what seemed to be another that I couldn't put my finger on. All I knew was that angry Vasto lords were never good, even a ditzy one like Lady Nelliel. So pushing down any pain I felt at the moment, I took a step forward and looked up to her and gave a small nod. How can I help you, Lady Nelliel? She quickly shook her head, the frown and anger vanishing. Inwardly I was relieved. I had the pleasure of watching herself and Lord Naruto spar a few weeks prior. Well, calling it a spar would be an exaggeration. The two were merely poking fun and she was trying to force him to eat once again. But nonetheless, my point is that the Ryatsu they were just throwing around in their techniques was staggering. Even if I was in prime fighting condition, I doubt I would last more than a moment against her if she became serious. I was coming to fetch you for the expedition, but now I am not sure if you would be able to go, she trailed, instantly causing me to become defensive. It sounded almost like she didn't want me to go, like something was wrong with me escorting Naruto to the human world. It would seem that she saw I was not happy with where the conversation was heading. Her hand shot up into the air and I flinched back, but a click of Lord Naruto's fingers was all it took to kill a hollow. I would be prepared if she tried such a move. No, what I mean is, you have felt weaker lately, haven't you, Tear-san? Lying would get me nowhere, but I didn't exactly want to admit that I was becoming weaker, especially not out loud. It would seem that she understood such a thought. It's okay, really it is. It's great in fact, but you are going to need to take it very easy for some time. Let the others pick up their game a bit. I shook my head, not understanding what she was trying to get across to me. Why couldn't her and Lord Naruto be more direct with how they approach situations at times? I do not know what you mean, Lady Nelliel, I questioned hesitantly. All anger was gone from her form, but it was still not worth the risk. You have gained new markings on your mask and body. This means that either you are a very strange hollow, or you are going through the evolution to Vasto Lord. It is really painful and you will be next to useless during the final stages. Naruto would be able to explain it better. I saw her flinch a little as she said that. Did she have an argument with the blonde? It was probably for the best that I don't bring it up. And you will need to see Sale at some point. It is merely to get readings on your Ryatsu near the start of evolution, so we will be able to track these kinds of things, and have a rough estimate of how everyone is doing here. She continued, causing the majority of my defenses to fall. Many hollows dreamt of becoming a Vasto Lord, and here I was in the process of obtaining such a thing? A strange thought, not to mention I would become closer to Lord Naruto if Lady Nelliel was any indication of what such a position meant. Plus I would have the strength to defend Mila Rose and Sun properly. But if what Nelliel said is true, I would not be of any use for a time before that happened. Maybe there was a way to speed up the process. Pain was something I was not entirely fazed with. I had suffered enough to know how to endure, but from the small tastes of Lord Naruto's Ryatsu I have been able to obtain, the blonde has felt it even worse. His very soul seems to scream in agony. Thank you for informing me, Lady Nelliel. I should inform Lord Naruto about such a thing, and see if there is anything I could do in such a state to help. It would be up to our blonde leader as to what happened. I merely hoped that my Vastolord form was smaller than Lady Nelliel's. I would prefer to be more like Lord Naruto in that regard, maybe even blonde like him. It seemed to be a nice color, and the deep blue he wore goes nicely with it. Nelliel gave a small nod. Well, Naruto is over at sales at the moment. The only thing I can say is be careful when you enter. Sale is very finicky when it comes to his experiments. He doesn't like anything in his labs being touched. Anyway, I still have to go fetch Ulquiorra and Gyemjao. They are meant to be going on this expatiation as well. The Vastolord spoke calmly before turning around and leaving. It gave me a few moments to think to myself. If I was less reserved I may have squealed. If my body didn't hurt so much I may have jumped for joy. But I guess I would just have to settle for a large smile, one that nobody would see because of my mask. Me a Vastolord, it was still a while before I would reach there. But even still it was now closer than I had ever thought it to be, and I couldn't stop the small tingles that ran through the tips of my claws. Naruto POV. So there were test tubes, some tables, and what a shocker, more test tubes. Sale really didn't bother to hide his work at all, but then again. Most hollows were banned from his labs quite quickly, him finding them too much trouble to have around. I heard some yelling as I entered. Yilford, Sale's older brother, seemingly in trouble yet again. From the sounds of things, he had got some papers in the wrong order. I couldn't tell the order for most of the things around here. I mostly just pointed at cool-looking things, and talked about my big book. My big book that only Sale and myself had read. The octopus Ajuchas, at least I think he is an octopus anyway. He is really smart, and I am apparently a good leader. I don't know, the stuff kind of comes naturally to me. Must have been a leader of something in my past life, but if that was the case, why was I always so sad? I gave a small sigh as I pushed open a large door, giving a few small knocks against it as I entered. Normally I would just barge in, but after the small explosion I caused last time, from not knocking, I figured it was best to play by Sale's rules. At least when we were in the labs anyway, and he was cool enough with it. Or at least he seemed that way. Yo, Sale? You in here? I called, hearing the sound of glass break against the floor, followed by some incredibly colorful language. Yilford clearly dropped something again. A few moments later the very hollow I was looking for appeared before me, giving a small bow. You called Naruto-sama, or is it Lord Naruto now? I saw the small smirk on his face. He was doing this purely to get on my nerves. It was working. I played calm though, giving a small shrug of my shoulders. I think I have given up telling you what to call me. I am just here to tell you that we will be looking at heading OU. I was cut off by a soft knock at the door. Such a thing was beyond annoying. I snapped my head around to see who would do such a thing, even though I really had no decent excuse for telling them off. I saw a confused-looking tear. The markings on her mask were different, not to mention that she had some blue bolts of lightning running down her legs now. An interesting new feature. My body turned and my head gave a small tilt. Tear, can we help you with something? I think I did a very good job of hiding any previous agitation. Apparently she was not able to pick up on such a fact. That was a plus. I didn't need people knowing of even more ways to irk me, but from the smirk on Sale's face, I knew he saw it. Lady Nelliel believes I may have started to evolve. She thought it would be best that I came to speak to Sale-san, and while you were here, Lord Naruto. Inwardly I cringed at the way she addressed me. I knew Sale was laughing inside himself at such a thing. I was told that you would probably not take me today. While I will regret not going, I can see the reason behind your actions, and ask if there is anything I could do during this state of evolution. I gently played with the fangs on my face. The process for becoming a Vastolord was quite painful, not as much as fighting without any skin on your body, an odd memory, but one nonetheless. Anyway, I was busy trying to find a place where she could fit in during her evolution. She seemed intent on working during such a state, even though I just let Nell do what she wanted during it. Meanwhile, with Tear's permission, Sale had started to take Ryatsu readings with some strange little device of his. It broke the last few times he used it on me, but maybe he was just having issues with getting readings, or it was not finished yet. Miss Halibel, wasn't it? She answered his question with a sharp nod. Why was everything about her so sharp? Her personality was one such thing. I had tried countless times to get her to lighten up. I would have to try again once she was finished with her change. The two were busy conversing for some time. I was ignored mostly, which was good because I was more than a little lost at the moment. It was such a pox time for her to start evolving right before a trip to the human world. Actually, that is a strange word, pox. It sounds rather posh but isn't, just a little bit older than what most people are used to. But this really couldn't have come at a worse time. We were all getting prepared to move out. With a small sigh I knew what to do, and thankfully they had finished talking already, Sale having already gotten the majority of the information he needed, and had booked some appointments or something to get the few pieces he was missing. Tear, her attention shifted onto me. I could feel that her eyes were not going to waver, as if she was telling me that I was all that mattered at the moment. Such a strange sense of loyalty. The job I have for you may seem easy at first, but like your last one, if much harder than it looks. I want you to pretty much make sure everyone is happy. This involves going around to the other groups and finding out how they are going, if they need anything and these kinds of things. Most of them will tell you not to bother, that they will make do with what they have. They will need a little push. If there is anything they could use to help them in any way, I would like to know. I spoke calmly and warmly, watching her give a stern nod, and try to bow again. I was really getting tired of her attempting such a thing. I firmly grabbed onto her shoulders and stared her down. Her eyes seemed to shrink from mine, as if she were scared. For the moment, that may be for the best. If you are going to keep up this act, I will strap you down. It hurts you to bow, I can see that. Everyone can see that, so stop it. If you feel the need to continue such an act when you are better, then do so. You can do whatever you want, but I will not have you hurting yourself because of some ridiculous need to bow before me. Do you see Sale doing such a thing? Do you see Nelliel? If I have to make this an order tier, I will. I all but bit out, watching her stiffen in my grasp as I pulled her back to her feet. I slowly let go and eased away from her, in case she tried again. She was even more stubborn than myself at times, a fact that amazed me. Hi Lord Naruto, I am sorry if I offended you. She seemed somewhat upset, something I knew I didn't like. With a sigh I walked forward, feeling bad as she flinched with my movements. I rested a hand on the side of her face like I did Nell. It had a strange way of drawing one's attention to you when you spoke, even calming them just a tad. You only offended me by placing your well-being below my own. I enjoy your company, Tear, and I look forward to when you finish evolving so we can see what you are really capable of. But until then, please take it easy. We are rather weak during our evolution. I feel this is the reason why we are so few in numbers. Thus I don't want you doing things that may injure you or cause you any more pain than what is needed. She nodded into my hand and gave a small sniff, one that was a little creepy but it seemed to relax her. Normal POV. Sale cleared his throat softly, breaking up what could be described as a scene before him. I believe we have things to do, right Lord Naruto? A small chuckle being held under his breath. Naruto shrugged his shoulders at the man. That we do, please rest here. When you are feeling up for it, you can talk to the groups. And don't worry, I will take you on the next trip to the human world, that is a promise. The shark-like Ajuchas gave a sharp nod to the blonde, watching as him and Sale quickly filed out of the labs. Yilford, try not to destroy all of my notes before I return. Even you should be able to handle such a task. Naruto gave a small shake of his head. Maybe you are a little hard on him? It must not be easy having such a bulky form. It was an offhand comment, but one that hit Tear hard. She looked down at her hollow form and clenched her eyes shut, praying that her Vasto Lord form would be slimline, like Naruto's. He was right. Such bulky forms really are troublesome. She had watched Nell often knock things over by accident. Giving a small shake of her head, Tear carefully left the lab, not wanting to be any more of an issue for anyone in her current state. She would head to the groups and see if they needed anything, like Naruto asked. Hopefully this evolution would pass soon. She didn't like being restricted from going with the patrol group already. Grimjow POV. Okay, so things aren't as bad as I thought around Air. I was a little hesitant about the whole no fighting thing. Okay, so I was completely against the idea. But the male hollows have this arena thing where they all jump in and fight. So that issue was taken care of quickly. Next I got into this patrol group, that is at best. We don't see a lot of action, but there's the odd scuffle every now and again. Well actually, thinking back on it, those fights were pretty full on, so I guess it ain't too bad actually. The best things would all have to stem from our crazy blonde leader. First off, while I want to be king, and if he gives me the chance to take him out, I will. But anyway, first off, he is a Vasto Lord. That means he has spent his time as one of us. He knows how to survive and apparently lead a large group. I am learning a lot from the punk, like these new types of attack. Apparently my hollow nature is quite adaptive to the influx of his storm-type Ryatsu, whatever that means. All I know is I can use some flashy new moves that blow stuff up real good. Halibel is getting weak though, we can all see it. I am glad she isn't leading us anymore. I can feel her Ryatsu. It feels flimsy, like it could break with the change of the wind. I got no idea what this means, but I know she is really sucking up the new leader's ass, and from the expressions he pulls, he doesn't like being reminded he is in charge. Good thing I don't plan on doing so. After all, if he doesn't want to rule, he can just give the crown to someone more fitting, like myself for example. Mila Rose is off doing some gardening crap. I think it is a bit of a farce. But that is where the majority of our food comes from. I still think we should have lower hollows handling such a thing, that is if they could stand being near Naruto's and Nelliel's aura. And what is with everyone calling them Lord and Lady? That shit makes no sense to me. Sure, they are strong, and they are Vasto Lord. Wait, could that be why? Would that make Nelliel a Vasto Lady? This thinking stuff hurts. I have been trying to take Ulquiorra's advice. Freaking Bat Boy is thriving here. People are starting to call him the Tempest Bat. But he needs to get angry or something. He's always so serious, and it gets on my nerves. But anyway, we are going to the human world today. Apparently the kingdom does this every couple of years, and we always learn a lot from it. I heard some whispers that this Seo guy is coming along with us. The man is meant to be some kind of freaky scientist. Oh, I guess that is him with Naruto now. What is he, some kind of octopus? Ulquiorra POV. Grimmjow is being a pain again. He has that face on him. It looks like he is trying to think. He should give it up. I know I told him to give it a shot, but after seeing what he does with the limited brain he has, it would be best if he didn't. Lord Naruto has shown up. It must be time to go. You really didn't expect much more, did you? Normal POV. Naruto scratched at the side of his mask, an almost bored look on his face. Well, it looks like everyone is here. He quickly did a quick look over the small group. There were a few other hollows among them, but those that stood out most were Grimmjow and Ulquiorra, seeing as he spent the most time with them. When Nell arrives, we shall leave. A few minutes passed as the slow sound of hooves clunking against the pavement entered their ears. Inwardly Naruto gave a frown. Something was wrong with Nell. He had known her long enough to be able to tell just from the way she moved. Noticing that everyone's eyes seemed to be on her, she quickened her pace and came to stand beside Naruto, dodging his questioning eye for the moment. Now that we are all here, he trailed, swiping a hand at the air and ripping open a large portal. We can get going. The journey to the human world was brief. Naruto knew the exact location of where they were headed, meaning the tunnel was only a few steps, not some giant walk like some other hollows were fated to endure. The group exited the portal and looked around. A few whistles were given while others found it a little difficult to breathe due to the lack of spirit particles in the air. Naruto looked around for a few moments, his eyes slowly taking in the surrounds. 3 hours, then I want everyone to meet back here. Try to keep a low profile. This means no killing. I don't want attention drawn to us like that fool Barragan. The expedition gave a stern nod, leaving 5 standing in the air still. Naruto's hands crossed over his chest. Grimmjow, Ulquiorra, seeing as this is the first time you two have been here, enjoy your time and study the humans. You never know when the small things they do may come in handy. If you see anything you think may be useful, feel free to take it, just don't cause much of a scene. I do not want to be fighting off an army of Shinigami. What seemed like a smirk could have been seen on the panther's face as he vanished, going off to do his thing. Ulquiorra hung around a few moments longer, dipping his head in acknowledgement to Naruto before taking his leave as well. Seo, do what you must, just try to keep the crowd you draw to a minimum. Naruto spoke calmly, just wanting to get everyone on their way as fast as possible. Of course, Lord Naruto, your words are law after all, the scientist chirped, giving a small chuckle as the blonde seemed to twitch in response, Seo vanishing due to whatever it is a scientist would in such a situation. Naruto turned to face Nell, seeing that she was looking intently at the ground beneath them, like it had become the most interesting thing in her life. Naruto took a few paces, stopping in front of her and looking down as well. I do rather enjoy how green the land is here. It is a nice change from the sandy landscapes we are used to. Nell stiffened before giving a small nervous giggle, trying to play off the fact that she hadn't noticed Naruto get so close, having been lost in her own train of thought. Yeah, it is nice. I'm sorry for being late. I lost track of the time for a few moments. That's okay. I often find myself losing track of time in Hueco Mundo blasted never moving moon. Do you want to tell me what is bothering you? The blonde questioned, a heavy silence covering the air for a pregnant moment. Nell quickly shook her head and put on a brave smile. No, there's nothing wrong. I was just thinking was all. She lied, hoping that he would leave it at that. Her hopes were cut short as she felt a hand cup her face. She felt herself being drawn to look at his blue eyes, already knowing that she would end up speaking if she was forced to look at them. Are you sure, Nelliel? I thought we were going to tell one another if we thought something was wrong from now on. Naruto's words caused her head to sink a little. He had been honest with her. The only thing he hadn't explained fully was that book of his. She knew he had it, and he promised to tell her everything once they understood what it all meant. I just feel like we are growing apart, Naruto. You have become distant, and this will sound selfish. But I am starting to regret helping you with your kingdom if it means that I will lose someone I care about. I guess I have been spending an unfair portion of my time training the new recruits. He slowly leant in and brushed a few strands of hair away from her cheek, placing a soft kiss on the side. I do cherish you, Nelliel, but I am confused about what you want from me. The chill that normally rests in my chest is lifted when I am around you. I find it confusing, but the warmth you bring is a pleasant change. Naruto backed up a little and scratched at his cheek with his claws. I may have been avoiding you because I was scared of making a mistake and ruining what is between us. Nelliel POV. When those words left his mouth, I felt my own grow dry. I leaned forward and slowly wrapped my arms around him. He stiffened and I was about to pull my arms back, thinking I had done something wrong. But he gently returned the gesture, resting his arms near the small of my back, just before my strange legs. I hated them. They were stupidly large and made everything so much harder to do. Even putting my arms around Naruto felt strange. Like it wasn't natural. I looked up, seeing him looking down at me. It was so strange as our positions were normally reversed, with him being shorter by a small bit. But I enjoyed it. I felt safe. With a small breath I inched my mouth closer to his, pressing my lips onto his. What felt like a small spark shot between us. His lips held a strange taste, but it was one I enjoyed. My mouth opened wider trying to get as much as I could. I must have looked like such an idiot. But Naruto did the same. Whether it was to make me feel better, or because he felt the same, I didn't know. I let out a small moan, like when you get that itch that has been bugging you for a while, never noticing the increasing reacts around us. I enjoyed being shorter than him, that much I knew already. Our lips parted and he rested my forehead against mine, giving me that cheeky smirk of his. I really did miss this side of him. I let out a small yelp, as a strange feeling ran through my body. My head snapped around in a panic, trying to figure out what could have caused such a thing. It started to hurt, and I started to become scared. Naruto frowned and held me tighter. He didn't need to say anything, because the look in his eyes showed he was as confused as I was. Then it felt like I was on fire, and I started to scream. Naruto was talking to me. I could make out what seemed to be comforting words while he tried to do something, anything. Then it just vanished, leaving me panting. I quickly looked around again, my eyes meeting with Naruto's, and I watched as he grasped at his head. He didn't even grunt, but I could tell he was in pain. He was always like that. Even during his evolution he hardly made a sound, while I was much more vocal about the pain of such a thing. He looked at me, but it wasn't with the eyes he normally did. While they were still their icy blue, there was something different about them, and when he slowly moved forward, I felt a strange desire to run away. I held my ground though, even as he snaked his clawed hand around my neck, his thumb caressing my cheek softly. He moved forward and kissed me again. This time there was no pain, but I started to feel lighter. I even felt a change in the wind, like it grew colder around us. His other hand wrapped around my waist and lifted me up. I threw my legs around him, deepening the kiss, before both of us suddenly pulled away. I looked down at my body. It was now quite similar to Naruto's own. What was best was that I had 2 legs, not 4. I pushed off of Naruto, missing his strange warmth, but I needed to see what the hell just happened. Normal POV. When Naruto went back in for the second kiss, their reactions spun out of control. Already the two had a strange bond with one another. Now it would stay till the end of their days. Gone was the goat-like mask Nelliel used to wear, replaced by one much like Naruto's own. Her bone chestplate was still intact, but now it was slimmer. Her legs had grown armor plating with tiny little claws on the end of her toes, but what got her the most would have to be the long green thing behind her. Nell's eyes darted from side to side, trying to get a good look of what it was, only to hear Naruto chuckle. That strange look was gone from his eyes now, leaving only the hollow she knew. He moved forward quickly and caught the object of her attention, giving it a firm squeeze and seeing her eyes go wide. "You have a tail, Nell." He trailed, letting it sink in. Sure, she had a tail before, but this one looked cute, plus it had a little bone tip. He gently moved it around to her front, where she looked at it for a moment before slowly wrapping her hands around it. Naruto unwrapped one of his own from around him and held it up next to the green one. "It looks like yours, Naruto," she said almost breathlessly, not believe what was happening. What's happening? I don't know, Nell, but Seo was trying to find something to take his mind from the project for a while, and I think we may have just done that for him. I haven't heard of anything like this before. The blonde let go of his tail and let it join the others, finishing the wraps around his bottom half. Nell seemed to start concentrating on something before her own tail started moving in the same way, creating a skirt of sorts for herself. Naruto rose a brow behind his mask at the action. "Not bad. It will take some time for you to get used to controlling it, but once you do, it becomes almost like second nature." Nell nodded before sniffling and crashing into his chest. Thank you, Naruto. I feel better like this." "I don't really know what I did, Nell, but I am glad I did." With a smile on his face, he warped his arms around her. He really had missed his times together with her. Sadly, now was not the time for such affections. A small cough from behind him grasped his attention. Sorry to interrupt Lord Naruto, but I feel a large amount of different Ryatsu coming to this location. Sale stopped himself as Naruto stepped away and revealed Nell to the scientist, watching his expression change in an instant. Well, this is much more than I had been expecting to find here. Anyway, I assume this has something to do with what could be a horde of Shinigami heading in this direction. Naruto shrugged his shoulders. I'm not sure, Sale, but it seems as if our trip is to be cut short. You still remember how to open a Garganta, right? The hollow in question gave a small scoff, finding the insinuation nearly insulting. Very good, go with Nell, and take the others to safety. This little fox will hold them off while you get everyone back to the cloud. Nell looked like she wanted to protest, but quickly had her hand taken by the scientist and lead away. Naruto took a stance, spreading his legs a shoulder width apart, his arms crossed across his chest and his tails wrapped around his legs. Waiting, that is what those that came noticed. The hollow was waiting for them. A strange act that meant he knew they were coming. Sale POV. Today had been a marvelous day for me. Firstly, I got to taunt Naruto, like normal. Then I got to do some testing on Miss Hannibal. Their theories were correct, and she is indeed entering the evolution cycle. I was able to try one of my experiments in the human world. Some people were able to notice us, others not so much. I noticed some strange Ryatsu slowly approaching, and thought for a moment that my testing may have alerted people to us. Well, in a way that wasn't planned anyway. But then I took in the Ryatsu of Naruto, and what was Nelliel at first, but now well she felt like a less powerful Naruto, with only a twinge of her own Ryatsu. I really was able to do the most interesting of things working for the blonde. Beside me was Nell, someone who I would indeed like to examine closely. I have never heard of such a change before. But now was not the time. I gave a small clap and flared my Ryatsu a little, making sure to keep it under the level that Naruto was pushing out to cover us. A few hollows quickly came. Ulquiorra was standing there with his normal expressionless face. There were a few others, but they were lower tier, and mostly just used for lugging things around. Well, in my mind anyway, not even worthy of me knowing their names. Oh, that nearly sounded a little evil. It is time to go. Sadly, we have had some unexpected visitors. If you could please quickly find the others and bring them to me, myself and Lord Naruto would be most thankful. I gave a charming smile. I was good at that. Then I noticed where his gaze was, landing on the form of Nelliel. He had a fair reason to question what happened, as did anyone really. It was no small fact that most of us looked up towards herself and Naruto, and to see such a change, well, it would be interesting, there was no doubt about that. In fact, I am sure Miss Hannibal would be most interested if the vibe I am feeling is anything to go by. She seems to have grown an attachment to our blonde leader. All will be explained at some other time, Ulquiorra, but for now we are in quite the rush, so please do as I have asked. Lord Naruto will meet us back at home. I kept my voice calm, but in all honesty, I had finished everything I had wished to do here today. Anything else gained would just be a bonus. The emotionless man gave a small nod before vanishing, a useful ability, one I must learn. It didn't take much longer for the others to gather, and I promptly used the technique Naruto himself had shown me. Swiping my hand at the air and ripping it open, picturing the center square clearly, and seeing it open up a few steps away from us. I waved my hand forward, everyone in. As I said, Lord Naruto and myself will explain everything at some other point. But for now just do as you are asked, and everything will go back to normal shortly. I watched them all pile in, looking back in the direction where we left Naruto. The clouds were getting awfully dense in that direction. A small smile graced my lips. Everything would be fine. Normal POV. Naruto stood firm, his lips pressed into a thin line. Shinigami, why are you here? He watched as approximately 30 people in black cloaks stood in front of him. One had a white overcoat of sorts. He would later find out it was to be called a Haori. An older man, with graying hair, stepped forward, his arms resting inside of his sleeves. Hollow, your kind is not welcome in this world, but under the current circumstances I must ask your name. He held an expressionless mask on his face, while those around him clutched at their blades. I am sorry, Shinigami, but where I am from, we address ourselves before asking such a thing of another. But maybe that is just my kind showing proper manners where they are needed? The blonde taunted, watching those around him sneer. They slowly tried to surround him, an effort that would prove to be useless. His eyes rested on someone that looked out of place. The rest of the people were all male, with dark hair, sans the older man, with clips inside of them, each had pale skin. But this one was female, darker skin and purple hair pulled into a ponytail, gold-piercing eyes all but glaring at him, her hands gripping tightly on a short blade. I suppose you are correct, you have made it clear you are not a mindless beast like others of your kind. Kuchiki Jinrei, 27th head of the Kuchiki family and captain of Division 6. Behind me stand a mixture of men from my clan, one from Clan Shihoin and a handful of men from Squad 6. The male slightly narrowed his eyes and Naruto spread an arm out. The blonde gave a slow bow, making a large display with his arms as Sale often did. He found it quite annoying, so he hoped others did as well. Naruto, no last name that I know of. Vasta Lord and leader of Sinfonia de la Furiosa Tormenta. Naruto noticed the man's eyes go wide, but he continued anyway. It would seem that something has sparked your curiosity. But I will say one thing, at the end of the day I will be returning to my comfortable bed. All that will change is how many will be returning to your own. Watch your tongue, Hala man started to scream, only to be split in half, Naruto having not moved an inch. The blonde Vasto shook his head from side to side. Manners please, myself and Jinrai-san are having a conversation. It is rude to interrupt. A few members of the Kichiki family made to move, only for Jinrai to hold up his hand, halting them without having to do anything more. In a way you are correct, Naruto-san, but I must question your methods of discipline. Furthermore, we have been searching for a Vasta lord by the name of Uzumaki Naruto. Would this happen to be you? Naruto tilted his head to the side, giving the man a bored look. I just said no last name that I know of. I find it rude when people don't listen. Almost as rude as when someone interrupts you. This is exactly what you have done here today, but I will give you a chance to leave, if you do not take it. It is your own fault. Naruto spun on the spot, instantly ripping open a garganta and stepping through in one movement. Once he reached the other side he looked back, taking notice of the Shinigami inching closer. Looking around him he smiled. He had reached the Minos forest with only a few small steps. He gave a small sigh as he watched them crowding around the gate. He could have closed it at any moment, yet he would let them make their own choice. They deserved as much. With swift movements he reached up to his neck, barely touching his spear and turning it large into an actual weapon. Something that would have passed by their vision if they were not focused on the action. A few moments passed and the Shinigami entered through the portal. He closed it behind them, letting them look around at where they had traveled to. Welcome to Hueco Mundo. You are currently in no man's land, meaning neither my forces nor the fool Barragans will interrupt this fight. I had hoped you would have taken the smarter choice and left, but now that you are invading Hueco Mundo, it is my duty to put you down. And my orders are to take you back to Soul Society. It seems clear that you will not listen to reason, thus we must use force. Jinrai lifted one of his hands, pointing it towards Naruto as a large bolt of lightning flew out, heading for the blonde hollow. The attack hit its mark, sending a large amount of dust into the air. A few of the Shinigami cheered, thinking it was over already, while 3 frowned. The attack was enough to take out a Jillian, nothing more. Their thoughts proved right as the dust cleared, showing Naruto standing there like nothing happened, his head tilted to the side, while a hand rested on his hip, a bored expression on his face. I guess I forgot to add that I am the Storm Fox, but then again the name of my kingdom should have given that away. As skilled as you might be, Jinrai-san, none can control a storm better than myself. As if following his cue, rain started to fall around them. Looking up, some noticed a large cloud forming above their heads. The foxy hollow smirked and spun his spear around in his fingers, watching as large bolts of lightning shot to the ground, taking out the slower Shinigami. Their bodies lay on the ground crispy and cooked. Jinrai clutched at his Zanpakuto, preparing to draw it only to feel something rip through his chest. He looked across to Naruto, seeing his left index finger pointed in his direction, a small ball of energy resting on its tip. His large spear was effortlessly holding back his son-in-law. The wise old man drew his blade. He guessed he would need to release Scatterga. He coughed up blood, and looked down to see another hole had been punched into his body. Koga was being pushed back, while most of the men lay defeated already. Yoruchi was moving around the fox quickly, but was being kept at bay by his tails. I take it from the look on your faces I am the first Vasta Lord you have fought. This is your own fault. I gave you the chance to leave. But I guess you were just following orders. Funny, they are going to get you killed. You are a fool like Barragan. Naruto's smile left his face. No longer did he play with Koga. He spun his spear once more and shoved it through the man's gut, shattering his Zanpakuto. His eyes went wide as his legs grew weak. He fell forward onto his knees and looked up into the eyes of Naruto. The blonde tore the spear from his gut, and then his form started to roll to the side and grow taller. Koga heard a loud scream behind him, and noticed he was now quite close to the hollow's feet. Looking up he saw his body and it all made sense to him. To be bested by a hollow, how shameful. Well, he was the strongest from your group. I expected better. Naruto looked between the female and Jinrai, deciding which one was next. Any last words, Jinrai-san? The older man nodded, a small smile growing on his face. May I have a final request instead? His words got a small look of surprise from Naruto, who slowly nodded. Let Yoruchi return to our world. She still has a whole life ahead of her. To waste such a precious thing, I don't think even you are that cruel. After all, like you said, you gave us the chance to walk away. Naruto shrugged his shoulders, pointing his spear at the darker Shinigami. Give me your blade, and I will send you home. Both Shinigami nearly gawked at him for such a suggestion, but he gave a small shrug of his shoulders, raising the Ryatsu resting on his finger again, extending it into a long thin line, one that stopped at the throat of Jinrei. It will teach her to adapt and humble her. If not, I can kill her now and be done with this conversation. Jinrei gave a weak old smile and a nod of his head. Yoruichi looked at him in shock. Jinrei-sama, you cannot be serious about such a thing. You are surely worth more than myself to Soul Society. Hush, girl, do not deny a man his last wish. Keep that grandson of mine out of trouble, and place your sword on the ground. Naruto sent a tail forward and collected the blade, bringing his tail back and wrapping it around his body, the sword resting at the small of his back. He withdrew the energy from his finger, looking blandly across at the duo. Come, girl, I shall open the garganta for you. With understandable hesitance, Yoruichi moved forward, watching the man closely as he opened the portal. Part of her wanted to steal her Zanpakuto back, but after seeing how fast he dealt with Koga, it was ill-advised. As she stepped closer, she felt a hand clasped down on her shoulder. You are taking too long, do you want to push? The cool voice came, nearly sending a shiver down her spine, but she used Shunpa, quickly stepping through the portal and spinning around, watching as it closed. When it did, she looked around and found herself back where she started. She looked down and saw a strange arrangement of rocks beneath her. Cats don't have Ryatsu, it stated, making her realize he had known she was there from the start. What scared her the most was, he never moved to create the sign. Your request has been fulfilled, Jinrei-san. Now you will come with me. The statement caused a look of shock from the older man. You're not going to kill me? Naruto shook his head softly. I never said I would kill you here. See, my friend and I have been working on a project. The only issue was we needed a live Shinigami captain. I believe you see where I am going, Jinrei-san. The older man gave a grim nod, his hand on his blade. He moved it up towards his neck only to feel its weight vanish. I gave you your last request. It is only fair that you give me what we hollows want. Do not make this more painful than it needs to be, Jinrei-san. Naruto's voice was chilling calm. The old Kachiki looked to the blonde. Behind him was the image of a crimson fox, a sickly sweet smile on its lips while a fire burned in its eyes. Then it vanished, leaving a smiling Naruto. His tails flew out in all directions and lifted up the bodies of downed Shinigami around him. Naruto placed his spear up near his neck and shrunk it down, attaching it once more to the small chain. The blonde stretched his hands out wide, and gave a small whisper, Espejo. Mirror. The air around him seemed to become dry as a foggy sheet of water slowly formed. Numerous images flashed through it. Before it froze on a certain one, large test tubes could be seen on the other side. For a few moments nothing happened as Naruto stared at the frozen sheet of water. The tail that had been holding on to Yoruichi's Zanpakuto unraveled itself, placing the blade in the blonde's left hand, before shooting across and stealing the one from the old man, mimicking its action from moments before. Naruto calmly walked forward and picked up Jinrei, binding the man's hands behind his back, and carrying him through the mirror. On the other side, Sale stood with question in his eyes. If Naruto was coming straight here, that meant he had something. If he had something, from the company that he was left in, it could quite possibly be Shinigami. Aside from that, he always wanted to study Naruto's Espejo, and was doing such a thing now. He could see the Minos forest through the mirror. The figure of Naruto slowly became imprinted on the mirror, before the blonde himself stepped through. The scientist's eyes went wide at what he saw. Lord Naruto, is today my birthday? The question caused the Vasto Lord to give a small chuckle. It would seem that way, Sale, but you said you needed a live Shinigami captain for Project Hoja del Alma? Plus I figured you could find something to do with the others. Also, the man in my hands is Jinrei-san. His stay should be somewhat comfortable, if that is not too much trouble. After all, he was just following orders which led to his current situation. Naruto stated calmly as he placed the corpses of the Shinigami onto nearby tables, and placed Jinrei gently on the ground. Sale gave a small shrug of his shoulders. That shouldn't be an issue, Lord Naruto. After all, it is a task my lord has asked of me, thus I shall perform it to the best of my abilities, just like my lord would want. If you check back in a few days, Lord Naruto, you will have more answers, but as of now, I have nothing more for you, my lord. Naruto's brow was twitching as he listened to the man speak. You're doing that on purpose, aren't you? I have no idea what you are talking about, my lord. What is your issue with Baragon? I honestly just feel like Baragon is a very disliked character, much like a certain other hollow cough Neutra cough. There is going to be rather large scenes where the two kings don't get along, and most of the hollows from Naruto's kingdom don't have a nice word to say about Baragon. Nelliel kissing Naruto? I feel like this Naruto, while he shows affection, would not be one to make the first move, Plus I thought it would be cuter if Nelliel did it. Quite a few different points of view in this chapter reasons. I enjoy writing like that for quick snippets, as it allows us to grasp a portion of the mentality that the person we are viewing from is feeling. Also, if there is a line break without telling you which POV it is, 90% of the time it will be just a shift of scene, meaning the POV remains the same as it was before. Nelliel? I felt that she was way too happy in canon like all the time, unless she was fighting, so she is being sprinkled with some other emotions in this FIC. Nelliel and Tyr? Nell thinks Tyr is trying to take her position, being that they are both strong female hollows that want to be near Naruto. Even if it is for somewhat different reasons. Hence there is some hidden hostility between them. Tyr's evolution? We are actually going to be following the evolution of Tyr rather closely. I believe this will be a good event to get her to start trusting in Naruto a bit more. While there is small doses of it here and there, this event will be the thing that kind of secures it. Tyr coming across as somewhat scared of Naruto? Well, the first time she met him, he did rip a hollow to pieces with just the wind. Plus, as she mentioned, she had the pleasure of watching Naruto and Nelliel use a few of their techniques against one another. Naruto pulling her from the patrols as soon as she started to show changes of evolving? Two big reasons. Naruto doesn't like to see people hurt. He knows firsthand how crappy you can feel when going through evolution, so he doesn't want to see Hiri hurt out on a patrol. Second is, having another Vasto Lord in his kingdom would make it that much safer, and he didn't want her to just be some nobody, hence why he asked her to go around to the other groups and see if they needed anything. Tyr always trying to bow? It was something that was drilled into her before she met Naruto. As she stated earlier, she had spent time with another group of hollows. Was that a tiny bit of Tyr's Naruto fluff right there? Yes, it was but a small pinch of what is to come. While she may not trust him, her animal instincts may call out towards him because he is an alpha male. Anti-large hollows? Yeah, there is a fair bit of that in this chapter. Seo doesn't like them because they always knock stuff over, as well as Naruto stating outright that such a form must be troublesome. Something that Tyr knew and wished her Vasto Lord was more like Naruto's. Genju? He didn't get a whole heap of screen time this chapter, but his POV section did help to give us an idea of why he is still following Naruto. Plus some comedic value and a small hint towards another hollow's powers. Nelliel in the human world? She feels as though her form is wrong, and is not shy about voicing these feelings to herself. Because of her, for lack of a better word, hatred of her form, when she and Naruto share and merge their Ryatsu together during their explosion of emotions, this kiss in the air, she transforms into a fox-like hollow like Naruto. This is because he was the only hollow she had enough of an attachment to that had enough Ryatsu to perform such a thing. That plus I felt like the whole centaur thing was just off for her. It really just didn't seem to fit, for me at least. Seo? As I said, I will be portraying him a little different in this fiction. He will still be a mad scientist, but he will have some morals and loyalties, plus make the odd joke or reference every now and again. He has a lot of respect for Naruto, and does enjoy his time with the blonde, as he is constantly learning new things. The Shinigami v Naruto? Yeah, it was a bit of a stomp, wasn't it? But then again, none of them would have gone up against a Vasto Lord before, so they wouldn't exactly know what to expect. I wanted Soul Society to come across as weak at the moment. Because Yorichi escaped, she will be able to relay the information that hollows are getting stronger, thus their training increases drastically, building them up to the Soul Society that Ichigo invades. Koga being taken out so easily? I found Koga to be incredibly arrogant, so he was probably thinking along the lines of I don't need my Shirkai to take down a hollow. That thinking would have led to his demise had he met most from Naruto's kingdom. Naruto taking Yorichi's Zanpakuto? It helps to give reason as to why she doesn't have one in the canon, but it will also solve a small puzzle I had down the track. Espejo? Yes, it is a little like Haku's crystal ice mirror, isn't it? But really it is more like a method of transportation across long distances while staying within the same dimension. Hoja del Alma? Blade of Soul is a project that Naruto and Seo have been working towards. One of the key missing pieces was a Shinigami. While Naruto is mostly against fighting, he is okay with protecting his friends. So let's say for example a bunch of Shinigami invaded Hueco Mundo. Well, you get the picture, right? Next chapter hint? Evolution of a pack mentality. My eyes snapped open and I bit back a hiss. This evolutionary cycle was beginning to grow more and more tedious. Every movement felt like a blade digging through my skin. How Lord Naruto was able to stay quiet during his I will never know. I feel like I could scream at times. I often wonder if Lady Nelliel or Lord Naruto contemplated tearing away at their skin, to try and rid of this burning sensation. A tired sigh escaped the fanged lips of Naruto. His hand gently pushing open the doors to Sail's labs, giving a small knock to show he had come in. The Ajuch is already busy with his projects. Sail, I wish to show our guest around, Naruto called softly, not wanting to shock the scientist in case he hadn't heard his knock. He was waved off, a symbol that the hollow was busy and it was okay. Naruto managed to suppress the small chuckle that wanted to escape. Sail had been like this ever since they returned from the human world 3 days prior. His clawed feet stopped outside of the cell. Well, it was more like an apartment only with bars for one of the walls. Jinrai-san, I would like for you to walk with me, the blonde spoke honestly, causing the older man to look up with risen brows. I must admit, that is quite the odd request. But I am in no position to refuse. The Shinigami slowly stood to his feet, brushing his robes off and moving towards the door, Naruto opening it with a flick of his wrists. The blonde waving him to follow as they passed the man's Zanpakuto, both stopping to look at it for a moment, Naruto wondering if he would reach for it. Jinrei gazed at it for a few moments longer, slowly turning away and resting his gaze on the one belonging to young Yoruichi, just inches away. A sad smile passing across his face. He had saved her life, but she was now without a weapon. I do thank you for letting her leave. He spoke softly, watching Naruto nod from the corner of his eyes. You showed me an amount of respect, I merely did the same. Jinrei gave a small shake of his head. I doubt you would have been as well treated as I have, had our positions have been reversed. A smile twitched at Naruto's lips. Come, I want to show you around my kingdom. The duo exited the labs, and Jinrei jumped as Naruto was assaulted. Well, maybe assaulted was the wrong word to use, but the green blur had defiantly moved with a passion. Tilting his head to the side, he saw a green-haired woman hanging from the blonde's neck. Nell, we have company, Naruto stated with what almost seemed like a cheerful tone. Jinrei watched the girl spin around and eye him carefully before nodding. This is Jinrai-san. Jinrai-san, this is Nelliel. With the introduction out of the way, Nell gave a wide smile. Are we giving him a tour? She nearly squealed in delight. Apparently after she mixed with Naruto's Ryatsu, her emotions were incredibly heightened. It was part of the reason the two were near inseparable now, well more so than before. Naruto gave a small nod, and Nell grabbed onto his arms tightly, squeezing it into her chest as a smile came over her face. Well, we shouldn't waste time standing around any? Jinrei was near speechless as he was shown around. To think that hollows, creatures they had thought to be little more than beasts, were capable of living in what seemed to be peace, something not even Soul Society was able to achieve. Nell had been feeding him interesting pieces of information. He took a final look around at what they had accomplished here and gave a small internal sigh. If you ever gained some type of information inside the enemy camp, you would never be able to leave. Naruto had already said that he was going to die though. It was just a matter of when. His thoughts were not the most pleasant. He held no illusion that he would see his family again, nor that he would be rescued. Naruto and Sail had made his stay comfortable. It was more than what he had deserved. They had stopped in a large area. What looked like crops were spread out far and wide. Jinrei rose a brow as he looked around, watching hollows move through the field, tending to the plants. And this is where we get the majority of our food from. It is laced with Ryatsu, so it helps us to both evolve and heal faster. As you can see, some of the members of the kingdom are hard at work, making sure everything is in order and growing correctly. Nell cheered, giving a small wave to the others, smiling as they returned her gesture. Jinrei let a smile cross his face. You have become self-sufficient. You are a most impressive leader, Naruto-san. The blonde shook his head lightly. The praise is owed to everyone. None of this would have happened if it were not for the contributions of every hollow inside of the cloud. This tour was to show you that we mean the humans no harm. We merely go there to acquire materials we cannot build yet, or to get ideas for what we can work towards next. We really didn't give your kind much credit, Naruto-san. All it took was a handful of you, all working towards the same goal to create something like this. Truly a remarkable achievement, the elder man trailed, giving a small glance around, watching as the hollows around them started to narrow their eyes on him. It would seem that Naruto took notice of it as well. The words he spoke next, at least hinted at the fact. We should look at finishing this up, Jinrai-san. I would hate to interrupt those that are hard at work, any more than we already have. The old Shinigami gave a stern nod, watching as Naruto spread his hands out, like days prior, espejo the large sheet of ice quickly forming. Nell stepping through moments after it finished, shooting a hand back to grab onto Jinrei and pull him through. Naruto gave a small nod to those in the fields, watching smiles spread across their faces as he followed after the two. What do you mean you are the only one left? Roared Captain Commander Yamamoto, as he slammed his cane to the floor in anger. His eyes burning in rage as he looked over the young ebon princess. Her clothes were torn and covered in blood. Her breathing was heavy, and she looked nigh dead on her feet. Captain Kuchiki used his dying request to plead with the Hollow to send me back to the human world. The Hollow was of the Vasta Lord class, and called himself Naruto. We were completely overwhelmed. The majority of the men fell within the first few moments. He seemed to take his time with myself, third seat Koga, and Captain Kuchiki, toying with us until he became bored. Yorichi shuddered a little, slowly taking a deep breath to calm herself before continuing. Then in a flash, he broke third seat Koga's Zanpakuto before beheaded him. She gave pause for her words to sink in, watching some eyes go wide, including those of the captain commander, but he gave her a stiff nod to continue. He would not allow Captain Kuchiki to release his Zanpakuto. In the end, he asked for the captain's last words, but he asked for a last request instead. The Hollow Naruto complied, but only after I left my Zanpakuto behind, stating that it would humble me and teach me to adapt. Yorichi bit her bottom lip. If she had have been stronger, maybe they could have gotten out of that with the captain and third seat. A few moments passed where Captain Yamamoto seemed to be in thought. He slowly brought his cane into the air, giving one solid strike against the ground. Take yourself to Division 4 to get patched up. It will be up to them as to when you can return to duty, and as much as I dislike saying this, you will learn to fight without your Zanpakuto. You are an asset to Soul Society, one I do not wish to add to the list of losses for this incident. Hi, Captain Commander. Yorichi got out quickly, giving a long bow before walking from the room. The hall becoming silent as the captains all waited to hear from their commander. Kayaraki gave a small sigh, his large straw hat dipped down over his eyes. Could this be that Hollow you warned us about, Yamaji? A few of the other captains looked on with clear intent, each wanting to know the answer to the question posed. Possibly. I have only received loose information about him, but from what I have heard, he was expected to be a Hollow, like something we haven't seen before. The Naruto they ran into seems to fit this situation. Once Shihoin Yorichi has recovered, I will issue more in-depth details to you all. I want you each to be prepared, but for now, chasing this Naruto we do not have the needed manpower. The captain commander stated sternly, his eyes closed tightly. You are dismissed. Lord Naruto. Her voice was panicked. I already knew what she had come to speak about, who wouldn't at this point? It irritated me that Tyr would move about in such a state, but she is so much like me that it isn't really funny in the end. Well, her determination side of things anyway. I hope I am never as serious as her, the heavy Ryatsu that is beating down on us. I questioned, feeling her own Ryatsu flicker ever so slightly. My eyes slowly opening to see her hang her head down a little. High, she seemed to be at a loss for words. I slowly stretched out on my chair, or throne if you would call it such, doing my best not to wake the curled up and sleeping Nell. Her hands were clutching tightly to my waist. A small groan left her mouth. It would seem I forgot how light a sleeper she is. Her body started to stir, and brown sleepy eyes looked up at me. She means us no harm, Tyr. This crushing Ryatsu you feel, it is a Vasto Lord, one that I found quite some time ago after my own evolution. It was during the time when I couldn't control the amount of Ryatsu I leaked, which meant that I couldn't stay near Nelliel. I gave a small smile and stroked Nell's hair, causing her to beam a grin up at me. She helped me get back onto my feet, and I was able to gain a rough control over my Ryatsu. It is time for me to return the favor. I have already spoken to Sale, and am just waiting for the item I asked. Tyr gave a stern nod, before turning and limping away. You should get yourself something to eat, Tyr, it helps to speed up the evolution. She gave a slight pause in her step, slowly turning around to raise a brow at me. Nell slowly shifting on my lap and coming to a seated position, stretching and giving a cute yawn. Lord Naruto, do you have any advice? She seemed incredibly hesitant to ask me. Was she afraid of how I would respond? A slight chuckle left my cracked lips. Just take it easy, Tyr, keep eating properly, and remember to keep up your appointments with Sale. He will let you know if there is any way to improve what you are doing. If such a thing happens, please come to me. I will do what I can to help you, Tyr. Tyr gave a less stern nod. Her eyes could be seen as almost relieved behind her mask. Thank you, Lord Naruto. May I take my leave? A clawed hand was lifted into the air that waved from side to side lightly. Don't make it seem like you need permission for everything, Tyr. I am not a tyrant. Gomen, Lord Naruto, I did not mean to offend. Her voice had evened out, seeming much calmer than it was moments ago as she gave a small bow of her head. See, can I speak to you soon? Do not hesitate, but also do not overwork yourself, Tyr. I believe you are becoming something great, and I would hate to see the stricken faces of those around you, should something happen during this stages. The blonde calmly replied as Nell jumped off his lap and beamed a great smile towards Tyr. Remember to take it easy, Tyr-san. If you need any help, or even just someone to talk to, don't be afraid to ask or visit. Tyr stiffened a little, an action that didn't go unnoticed by Naruto, It would seem the Ajuchas had somewhat forgotten about Nelliel, or there was a poorly hidden side of dislike towards the Vasto Lord. Either way, either option was exceedingly good, seeing as Nell was making no attempt to hide her presence more than normal. All thoughts were tossed aside though, as the large doors were flung open, letting the gentle storm breeze into the room. Standing in the doorway giving an incredibly dramatic bow was Sail. "Oh my dear merciful and humble Lord Naruto, I appeal to your generosity in order to forgive me for taking so long in the task you asked. It was completely my fault. I hope you will be able to find it within yourself to forgive a fool such as me, my lord." Had Naruto's Vasto Lord mask not covered his eyebrows, a very visible twitch would have been seen by all. "You do this to try and get a reaction out me, don't you? Plus I only asked for this object a few hours ago. Your progress was outstanding, like always, Sail. I could never do something so underhanded to my lord, but I must thank his praise." The Ajuchas held his hands forward, showing a small bracelet with a circle and vial hanging from it. I took the liberty of adding the same feature to it as those from the patrol group. Mostly to save time later on down the track. All you need to do is channel some of your Ryatsu into the vial, and it's good to go. A long blue tail shot forward, taking the bracelet on its tip. Sail stiffened in shock at the action. The movement was too fast for him to react to until it would have been too late. Naruto's calm voice seemingly waking him from his shock. "You do good work, Sail. Thank you for filling this request so promptly." The blonde's fanged lips stretching into a foxy smile. The scientist quickly stood and walked out of the room, Tear following after him. Nell turned to Naruto and gave him a small kiss on one of his fangs. "I think you may have spooked him a little, Naruto," she trailed, looking into his blue eyes. "Hi, but he wanted me to react to his taunts. I did, just not in the way he expected. Hopefully he sees that I find it a little tiring when he makes these big displays of it." The blue tails of Naruto whipped around the room, before creating a large ice sheet for the duo. "Espejo," he whispered softly. Nell gave a pout at the action. "Moo, Naruto, teach me how to control my tail like that." One passed by her face, softly rubbing up against it, and eliciting a chuckle from the Vasto Lord. "I don't know how, sorry Nell. I could just always do it. Controlling my tails just feels natural, like I don't even have to think about it." He spoke softly, and seeing that she was about to try to guilt-trip him into extra training, a handful of tails quickly wrapped her up, effectively covering her mouth and hoisting her into the air. "Now come on, I have told you everything I know about the subject. If it means that much to you, you can grill me later, but now I have to meet up with an old traveling partner of mine." A near burning glare was being directed at the blonde, causing him to chuckle nervously. It looked like he would not be able to sleep in peace for some time. He pressed his hands against the ice sheet, their forms slowly melding into it. Naruto's feet crunched against the sandy grains of the desert plain. The depressing aura rung heavy in the air. Attempting to crush his body to the ground, he merely gave a small chuckle, for his friend had grown stronger. His tails around Nell slowly unraveled themselves, placing her softly on her feet. Nell was about to start scolding the blonde, only to see a flash of dark brow from the corner of her eyes. A small grunt reached her ears and she noticed that Naruto was now on the ground. A great tail was wagging back and forth in the air. "Why you came back?" a shaky voice questioned, her long brown hair, coming down to the middle of her back. Around her neck a bony wolf jaw hung limply. "I said I would, Lilith. I never expected you to come looking for me though." The blonde trailed off slightly in the end, taking the moment to spare a glance to Nell, who was looking incredibly confused right about now. "Also, you remember how I spoke about Nelliel? Well, she became a Vasto Lord since we last spoke." Light pink eyes looked around for a few moments, finally resting on the green-haired woman. "Oh, Naruto told me so much about you, Nelliel. It's strange being able to talk to others. Normally hollows die when they come near me, cause my Ryatsu is really strong." A sad smile spread over her face, one that held more regret than others would know what to do with. "Your aura is pretty strong, but even Naruto was able to get his under control, and his felt like 10 times worse. I find it hard to stand even at my level," Nell stated cheerily, missing Lilith stiffen in response. Nell had to admit the aura was strong, but it wasn't as heavy and crushing as some of the ones she had felt before. She watched the pink-eyed woman gave a tired sigh. I can't call on any calming memories to help. I am stuck like this and I hate it. Trying to stay away from large groups of hollows so I don't kill anymore." I had been completely alone. It had been so long since I had heard the voice of someone else. Then this Baka here came along, completely unaffected by my Ryatsu. It felt good being able to talk to someone else, to be able to share what I was feeling. Lilith gave a small sniffle and brushed her hair away from her face. He said he started to remember stuff. It got all sciencey at that point. I tried to listen, but I couldn't understand what he was saying most of the time. Next thing I know, I feel his presence slowly vanishing. I know how to do it, I just can't. Nell gave a light chuckle. Well, he did that sciencey thing again. If you get off of him for a few moments, you might find out why it took us so long to get here. The brown-haired girl rose a brow behind her mask, slowly shifting off the blonde and standing to her feet. Her eyes took in the long blue tail that was gently swaying from side to side next to her, a strange bracelet of sorts hanging from its tip. This bracelet will absorb the Ryatsu you are leaking, meaning your aura will not be dangerous to be around. Its prototype was tested against my own and held up strong. What I am trying to say is, do you want to come with us, to a place you would be able to call home? To a place where you wouldn't have to be alone? The tail slowly moved, dropping the thin object into the clawed hands that were stretched out in shock. Are you sure? Wouldn't I be a bother? She stuttered out, looking down as her hands gently clutched the object, like it was the most fragile thing in the world. Lily! Stop doubting yourself, would you? This ain't the hollow that helped me out of the rut I was in. In fact, she looks a bit like a sissy now. Naruto taunted, watching the brown-haired hollow clip the bracelet on, poking her tongue out at the blonde. Nell took the time they spent arguing to look at this Lily closer. Her body was mostly covered in gray fur. Her face and neck were the only things that escaped this trend. One thing that stood out the most was her own Ryatsu, after gaining the large influx of Naruto's, was around the same level as Lily's, a rather scary fact for the green-haired Vasto Lord. Hey Nell, a voice spoke softly directly in front of her, causing a small yelp of fright to sound. She quickly narrowed her eyes in on the icy blue orbs in front of her. His lips were pulled into a smirk. You get lost in your thoughts again, Nell? A nervous chuckle left her throat, giving Naruto the answer he needed. Who cares about that, Naruto? Let's get Lily back to the others. I'll give her the tour and everything, so you can get back and have one of your fox naps as you call them. That line got the blonde's attention, without interruptions. He questioned cheerfully. Nell had taken notice of how Naruto was becoming more and more fond of his sleep. For what reasons, though? She still had no idea. I will not interrupt your precious beauty sleep. She all but bit out in return to the blonde, watching his fanged lips turn upwards to a smirk. Well, let's get going then. I don't know how long I will be able to continue holding Espejo open. The girls understood what he meant. Nell quickly took hold of Lily's hand and dragged them through the large sheet of ice, whispering something into her ear which caused them both to giggle. Naruto cracked his neck to the side, removing any kinks that may have been present before thrusting his tails out and into the ground, slowly raising his form into the air. A small gust of wind caused him to sway forward gently. I'm never going to get any sleep with those two around, a sigh escaping his cracked lips not a moment later. The long blue tails flicking the blonde forward at high speeds into the mirror, taking him back to his throne room. Emotions were something I thought that I had tossed aside. Yet here they are, a conflicting sense of self. I could nearly laugh at a statement like that, despite how true it felt now. My body ached, my legs felt ready to collapse, but for some strange reason, I needed to see him. Like it was the most important thing in the world. I can't explain it. I am coming to learn to trust Lord Naruto, but when I am in his presence, I feel safe. Like everything is okay, nothing nor nobody is going to be able to hurt me. Could that just be because he is one of the strongest beings in Hueco Mundo? But that still wouldn't explain the warm feeling I got when I was near him. I was becoming a mess, and it was all because of this damned evolutionary process. Before this thing had started, I was so sure of myself and where I was going to fit in now, though I had no idea. It didn't help that Lord Naruto dragged back a new Vasto Lord. She was strong, even stronger than Lady Nelliel, and she has suffered so much. I had seen the two running around and taking in the sights, a wolf and a fox, holding each other's hands, such a strange sight to see. But how was I to compete? Both of these Vasto Lord had known Lord Naruto for quite a deal of time, not to mention, they were older, meaning they already had a good grasp of their abilities. I was just starting to turn. How would I be able to stand next to them? Would I be good enough for Lord Naruto? I gave my head a small shake, despite the protests of the muscles in that area, a sigh escaping from my covered lips. My hands resting against the heavy steel doors to Lord Naruto's chambers. I had no logical reason for visiting him, but I was starting to feel as if I didn't need one. I gave the doors a soft push and the sight inside caused a shiver to run down my back.